Chapter 5133. Lu Ming wanted to bring Xianyanqing, Autumn Moon, and the others to such an excellent cultivation holy land. Senior, Lu Ming exchanged places with the tomb keeper. Without a sound, the gravekeeper appeared. What's the matter? Senior, I want to bring some more people here to cultivate, so I want to ask if it's possible? Lu Ming said. Bring some more people here? The tomb keeper frowned slightly and thought for a moment before saying, This place has been sealed by me, and it has concealed the secrets of heaven. It's difficult for those almighty beings in the outer verse to deduce it, but once too many people enter, it's difficult to conceal the secrets of heaven. This place might be deduced. How about this? I'll give you at most 10 more spots. You can bring 10 more people but no more. The more people there are, the harder it is to conceal the secrets of heaven. The tomb keeper said. Junior understands. Thank you, Senior. Lu Ming thanked him. Here all the people buried were immortals. There were dozens of tombs. Once the people of the myriad universe found out, they would definitely swarm over. Even the slightest bit left behind by an immortal would be a great opportunity. Then Lu Ming told Mulins and Huang Ling to stay here and cultivate. Lu Ming followed the original path and left. Of course, Huang Ling's jade pendant was lent to Lu Ming first because the tomb keeper said that the second half of the teleportation path would not be shown without the jade pendant. The first altar that was shown with the jade pendant would continue to hide in the dark void after they were teleported away. It concealed the secrets of heaven because it was afraid that someone would find it. After Lu Ming returned to the Azure Divine Realm, he sent a voice transmission to Xianyanqing and the others. Soon, Xianyanqing, Autumn Moon, Ling Yue, Bubbles, Dandan, Wanshen, Bone Demon, and Tang Jun arrived. There were a total of 8 people. In addition, there was Lu Ming's eldest disciple, Xiang Xiang, and his granddaughter, Lu Qi. In total, there were 10 people. Originally, Lu Ming wanted to give this opportunity to Lu Shenhuang, but Lu Shenhuang didn't really care about cultivation, so Lu Ming decided against it. On the other hand, Lu Qi's talent was not inferior to Lu Shenhuang's. Moreover, his willpower was firm and he cultivated diligently. He was more suitable than Lu Shenhuang. Unfortunately, there were only 10 spots. Otherwise, Lu Ming would have wanted to bring along his second disciple, Ouyang Moli. He could only think of a way later. For example, when they were almost done with their cultivation, they would switch to another group of people to cultivate. The group of 10 followed Lu Ming to the immortal graveyard. Because all the people buried in this area were immortals, Lu Ming had given it this name. What a great place. Dandan's eyes lit up. I want to forge an invincible skeleton here, one that's even stronger than the ancestral immortal bones of the great skeleton cosmos. Guillemot was extremely confident. Everyone spread out and sat down cross-legged to cultivate. Time passed quickly and in the blink of an eye, decades had passed. They threw the chaos of the primitive universe to the back of their minds and cultivated peacefully. Everyone's progress was very great. This was especially true for the others. Their souls and bodies had not been tempered by the sky-trampling platform, so they were originally very weak and could not be compared to their cultivation. However, in this place their physical bodies and souls were constantly being polished and improved rapidly. Lu Ming had also gained a lot, but unfortunately his body and soul had not broken through the limits. They were still a little lacking. At first, they were still quite a distance away from the large tombs, but over the years they gradually adapted to the environment and slowly approached the large tombs. In fact, he could even walk freely in this place. They discovered that there were a total of 32 large tombs here, each of which emitted a shocking aura. A peerless expert was buried in each of them. People couldn't help but sigh. Even if one was a peerless expert who transcended the universe and became an immortal, there would still be a day when they would fall. No one could be truly immortal. Although there was no limit to one's lifespan, there were still many calamities such as the calamities from other powerful beings. If one was not strong enough, they would still die. Moreover, although there were tombstones erected in front of these large tombs, there were no words on the tombstones. They were blank and it was unknown what was buried in them. Bang! Lu Ming stepped forward and arrived in front of a tombstone less than 100 meters away from the large tomb. At this point, the will emitted by the large tomb was even more terrifying. Lu Ming closed his eyes. It was as if it was not a large tomb in front of him, but a peerless expert sitting cross-legged there, giving him a terrifying pressure. Crack. Lu Ming could feel that his bones were making cracking sounds. His muscles were trembling and there was a piercing pain all over his body. He felt like he had been thrown into a furnace and was constantly being tempered, refining useless things, refining impurities, and purifying his body and soul. At this moment, Lu Ming felt like he was melting. His physical body and soul melted together, turning into tiny particles and cells. Every cell dispersed and was being refined. While he was being tempered, there was a trace of powerful vitality in heaven and earth that was being absorbed by every cell. Every cell in Lu Ming's body was growing and improving. At this moment, Lu Ming had turned into a rain of light in the eyes of others. They could not even see his human form. What's wrong with Lu Ming? The others were very worried as they approached Lu Ming. Lu Ming. Young master. Xian Yanqing, Qiuyu and the others called out, afraid that something had happened to Lu Ming. After all, Lu Ming was too close to the large tomb. They did not know if something terrible would happen. Without a sound, the gravekeeper appeared. Don't be afraid. He's breaking through. The old tomb keeper said. Breaking through? Is Lu Ming about to break through to late reciprocity? Mullins was surprised. She knew that Lu Ming had only broken through to mid-reciprocity a few decades ago. Was he about to break through again so soon? It's not a breakthrough in cultivation. It's a breakthrough in body and soul, reaching a new level, becoming a body tribulation and soul tribulation. The old tomb keeper said. Everyone was puzzled. What did body tribulation and soul tribulation mean? Above reciprocity, there's a special realm called the immortal tribulation. Any living being who wants to become an immortal must go through this realm. Only by going through 9 immortal tribulations can one become an immortal. Each of the 9 immortal tribulations is more dangerous than the last. Each immortal tribulation has 3 tribulations: lightning, fire, and decay. Once you go through it, your body and soul will undergo a transformation as if you've been reborn. It's extremely powerful. This is the body tribulation and soul tribulation. The old tomb keeper explained. Everyone listened carefully. They were very confused about the immortal tribulation, so this was the best opportunity to learn. Any cultivator who wanted to become an immortal would pay special attention to the immortal tribulation. After listening, they understood that the body tribulation and soul tribulation referred to the transformation of the body and soul after the immortal tribulation. Chapter 51:34. Every time you undergo the 9 heavenly tribulations, your body and soul will transform. Once you undergo the 9 heavenly tribulations, you'll become an immortal's body and soul. You'll transcend the universe and roam the primal chaos without dying. Now that Lu Ming has broken through, his body and soul are equivalent to someone who has undergone the first immortal tribulation. It's not too bad for him to reach this level at reciprocity. The old man said. Everyone was shocked at first before becoming speechless. This old man's standards were just too high. The body and soul of a reciprocity cultivator were equivalent to someone who had undergone the first immortal tribulation. Was that not too bad? Then what were the others? You must remember that if you want to become an immortal through the righteous path, the body and soul are extremely important. Of course, there's origin energy as well. The fleshly body, the soul, and the power of the origin are the foundation of immortal ascension. They must be advanced together, and not a single one can be missing. Only when these 3 are exceptionally strong can one survive the immortal tribulations. If one fails to pass, one will be annihilated by the immortal tribulation, leaving nothing behind. The old man warned. Thank you for your guidance, senior. Everyone was solemn. Clearly the old man valued them very much. In reality, that was indeed the case. After a period of observation, the old man was very satisfied with everyone's character. Their talent was decent as well. They were the future of the primitive universe, which was why he did not hesitate to give them guidance. Apart from Lu Ming, the bodies and souls of all of you are too weak. They're nowhere near the standard. In your current state, the chances of you failing the immortal tribulation are extremely high. All I can say is that you lacked guidance in the past. You took the wrong path from the very beginning, focusing on cultivation and neglecting the body and soul. However, it's not too late to change now. If you properly temper your bodies and souls here, I believe you'll be able to catch up before long. It'll be even better if you can refine the body and soul of a tribulation. For example, Lu Ming has broken through now. His body and soul are equivalent to someone who has undergone the first immortal tribulation. That way, when he truly begins to undergo the immortal tribulation, the first tribulation won't be too difficult for him. However, his origin energy is very powerful. Now that he has reached a high level, the immortal tribulation will be even more powerful. His body and soul will need to be even stronger. Only then will he have more confidence. The tomb keeper said. Senior, didn't you say that source energy is of utmost importance? Why would the immortal tribulation be stronger when one source energy reaches a higher level? Xian Yanqing keenly captured this point. He was puzzled, so he asked. The others also looked puzzled. Every immortal tribulation is divided into 3 phases: lightning strike, fire incineration, and decay. Among them, the fire incineration and decay tribulations are born from origin energy. The stronger the origin energy, the stronger the two tribulations will be. The Tomb Keeper said. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. Since that was the case, why were so many people still trying their best to raise the level of their source energy? If he kept his origin energy at a low level, wouldn't the immortal tribulation be weaker? Wouldn't his chances of surviving the tribulation be higher? The Tomb Keeper wore a rare smile as if he could see through the doubts of the crowd. He said, "Do you think that the lower the level of the source energy, the higher the chance of overcoming the immortal tribulation? Indeed, it's easier to overcome the first few tribulations. However, the higher the level of the immortal tribulation, the stronger it will be. The higher the level of the source energy, the stronger the immortal tribulation at the beginning, but it will also strengthen the cultivator. After overcoming the immortal tribulation, the cultivator will evolve and improve significantly. That way, the cultivator will have a better chance of overcoming the immortal tribulation later. On the other hand, the lower the level of the source energy, the easier it will be to overcome the first few tribulations, but the improvement it will bring to the cultivator will be smaller. When it comes to the later immortal tribulation, the cultivator will surely die." I see. The crowd came to a realization. The lower level of the source energy gave the cultivator an advantage at the beginning of the immortal tribulation. The immortal tribulation would be weaker, but it would not be enough to strengthen the cultivator. As the immortal tribulation grew stronger, the cultivator would surely die. Therefore, they had to strive for the best. All cultivators knew that the higher the level of the source energy, the stronger the immortal tribulation would be. However, they had no choice. In order to become an immortal, they had to attain a higher level of the source energy. Once you enter the immortal tribulation, there is no turning back. Even if you want to stop at a certain stage and not break through, you will not be able to do so. As time goes by, the immortal tribulation will descend upon you even if you don't attempt it. Therefore, if you want to become an immortal, there is no such thing as luck. You have to be the strongest in all aspects. Therefore, when you cultivate in the future, not only can you not neglect your physical body and soul, but you also have to constantly polish your source energy. If there is an opportunity, you have to improve it without hesitation. Only by overcoming the strongest immortal tribulation can you achieve the immortal path. The old man reminded them solemnly. "Thank you for your guidance, Senior." The crowd bowed and thanked him. After listening to the old man's words, they learned a lot. They had an unprecedented understanding of the immortal tribulation and had a better direction for their future cultivation. The strong would always be strong. Only by overcoming the most difficult immortal tribulation and going through the harshest training could one finally transcend and become an immortal. There was no shortcut on this path. Although the first few immortal tribulations with low-level source energy were easier, they would definitely not be able to overcome the later immortal tribulations and would eventually die. Moreover, this kind of living being was undoubtedly the weakest among the same level. "This young man is going to succeed," the old man said again. Everyone looked at Lu Ming in unison. At this time, Lu Ming finally succeeded in his breakthrough. His body no longer looked like a rain of light, but more like a condensed one. Lu Ming looked the same as before. However, there was an additional layer of crimson glow on the surface of his body. There was also a terrifying aura emanating from him, causing Xian Yanqing and the rest to feel a strong pressure. Lu Ming did not unleash his cultivation, and his source energy was restrained, but he gave off an extremely terrifying aura, as if a primordial beast had awakened. This crimson light is the light of tribulation. Every living being that has undergone the immortal tribulation will emit the light of tribulation in their physical body and soul. This young man has obtained it in advance, the old man explained. At this time, Lu Ming let out a long breath, and then the crimson light of tribulation on his body was withdrawn. He looked normal. However, Lu Ming knew that his combat strength had increased again. With a thought, his body shone, and the soul residing in every cell quickly gathered toward the source root. Then a complete soul appeared in the source root. The soul was very condensed as if it had a physical body. There was also a layer of crimson light of tribulation on it. Now Lu Ming's soul was many times stronger than before. Chapter 51:35. Now Lu Ming's soul was countless times more powerful than before. Now even when he faced sacred peerless soul attack, Lu Ming did not need to disperse his soul to every cell. Even if he condensed a complete soul, sacred peerless would not be able to do anything to Lu Ming. "My body's strength has increased by many times as well," murmured Jianqin. He had a feeling that he could beat regular early reciprocity existences to death with just the strength of his body. This was unthinkable in the past. In the past, he mainly relied on forbidden energy or origin energy in his battles. However, he could now kill early reciprocity existences with just his body and without using any origin energy. And this was only after he had broken through. If he continued accumulating for a while, he would become even stronger. It was possible to say that his body had become countless times more powerful than before. If he used his current body and soul to undergo the origin tribulation, it would be a piece of cake. There would be no difficulty at all. A body and soul that had undergone the first immortal tribulation was not just for show. Although his body could only kill early reciprocity existences, it would be of great help to Lu Ming's overall battle prowess. In the past, when he erupted with origin energy, he worried that his body would not be able to endure it. He worried that his soul would be obliterated by the origin energy. As a result, he would always have to use a portion of origin energy to protect his body and soul. That way it would be difficult for him to truly unleash his full strength. However, there was no need for that now. His body and soul were so powerful that he could unleash them to his heart's content. There was no need to worry about origin energy harming his body or soul. His body and soul were like a water tank, while origin energy was the water in the tank. If the water was too powerful and the tank was not tough enough, the water in the tank would break if it rapidly spun around. However, now that the tank had been strengthened, it was indestructible. The water in the tank could spin around freely without harming the tank. As a result, Lu Ming's overall battle prowess had increased. The environment here is extremely good. It's not impossible for you to reach this level. Good luck, kids. With that, the old man took a step and vanished into the depths of the continent. Lu Ming, how do you feel? I'm fine. Everyone gathered together and Lu Ming shared his insights. Then everyone dispersed and began to cultivate, tempering their bodies and souls. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, another 10 years had passed. Everyone's physical bodies and souls were growing stronger every day. At the same time, they were also getting used to the environment here. They were able to move around more freely. That day, a great tomb suddenly trembled, releasing dazzling multicolored light. What happened? Everyone was shocked and couldn't help but look over there. The entire necropolis was glowing, and a figure could be seen hovering in the air above it. It was a woman. Her appearance couldn't be seen clearly, but from her figure, one could tell that she was definitely a peerless beauty. The woman stood on top of the big grave as tall as the sky. Endless demonic chi surrounded her, exuding a supreme aura, as if she was above everything, eternal and immortal. There was also a figure standing at the bottom of the grave. It was Xian Yanqing. Xian Yanqing stood in front of the tomb. His long hair fluttered in the wind, and a stone tablet floated above his head. It was the immeasurable devil's steel. At this time, the figure on top of the grave suddenly turned into rays of light, or more accurately, particles. They shot towards Xian Yanqing and entered Xian Yanqing's body. Xian Yanqing sat cross-legged and closed his eyes. The immeasurable devil's steel floated above his head. Shaoqing, Lu Ming was worried and he took large strides forward. However, the old man guarding the tomb appeared silently in front of Lu Ming and blocked Lu Ming's path. Don't worry, this girl's fortune is profound. She's receiving an inheritance. The old man said. Inheritance? Could it be a possession? That immortal expert didn't die and left behind a remnant soul? Dandan walked over and muttered under his breath. In fact, this was what everyone else was worried about. The situation just now really looked like the remnant soul of a peerless expert was trying to possess someone's body. They couldn't help but worry. After all, each of the tombs here contained peerless experts. Let me tell you, every single existence buried here is dead. Not to mention a remnant soul, not even a strand of indestructible will was left behind. Sigh. The old man sighed. However, their corpses were luckily preserved. At that level, even if their bodies died and their souls were completely annihilated, their cultivation path was deeply engraved in the cells of their bodies. Under normal circumstances, it would be silent along with the body until it decayed and disappeared from the world. However, under special circumstances, it would be activated. It's obvious that the existence was unwilling to give up. Even if he died, he didn't want to sever his inheritance. Of course, that little girl named Xian Yanqing was fated with that existence, and she obtained a corner of that existence as weapon. The gravekeeper's tone changed. So that's the reason. Everyone felt relieved. On the other hand, Lu Ming's gaze fell on the immeasurable devil steel. Could it be that the immeasurable devil steel was a corner of that existence's weapon? Little fellows, all of you should do your best. There are more than 30 peerless experts buried here. When they were alive, they were all outstanding figures who could swallow the world. How could they be willing to be silent like this? Even if they were completely dead, they might find a successor through another method to pass down their mantle and fight for them again. All of you have a chance. The old man spoke again, and his voice was filled with temptation. Everyone's eyes lit up. Then they turned fiery. Even the weakest experts buried here were immortal experts. There were even kings among immortals. If they could obtain their inheritance, they would benefit immensely. The benefits would be unimaginable and would affect their lives. It's not easy to obtain the inheritance of those existences. Little guys, work hard. Let's see if you're fated. The old man smiled, revealing a mouthful of yellow teeth. Then he disappeared from the spot. Everyone's hearts were itching. They split up and chose a large grave based on their intuition. Then they began to cultivate under it. Lu Ming also chose a large grave and sat down cross-legged. He used the will of the grave to temper himself. However, after a year there was no reaction from the grave. Looks like I'm not fated with it. Let's change to another grave. Lu Ming muttered. He decided to change to another grave. The others were the same. After a year, there was no reaction from the grave they chose, so they changed to another one. But suddenly there was a commotion. One of the graves lit up, and a figure appeared above it. It emitted a holy light, and it was obvious that it was a peerless beauty. Below her there was another figure. Tang Jun. Chapter 51:36. Tang Jun was the second to obtain the inheritance after Xian Yanqing. The gravekeeper silently appeared again. These two girls are incredible. Their talent is top-notch and their luck is profound. The old man sighed. Lu Ming was not too surprised. Xian Yanqing and Tang Jun were the daughters of Tang Feng, the taboo sword ancestor. Like father, like daughter. They were very talented. In their previous lives they reached the origin level at a young age. After reincarnating, they were even more talented than in their previous lives. It was normal for them to be favored by peerless masters. And no, this is the aura of reincarnation. Are they reincarnated? It seems that someone was lucky enough to obtain the reincarnation substance. The old man murmured. Lu Ming's ears twitched. He could not help but feel surprised. Senior, could it be that reincarnation is very difficult? Of course it is. Even immortals find it difficult to reincarnate. The old man said. How is that possible? Lu Ming was shocked. Immortals found it difficult to reincarnate. But how did Xian Yanqing and Tang Jun reincarnate? There was also Dark Knight Rose and Yi Immortal. Among the people that Lu Ming knew, he had already met 4 of them. Lu Ming initially thought that as long as one's cultivation level surpassed the origin, one would be able to reincarnate. Reincarnation has nothing to do with cultivation. No matter how high one's cultivation is, for example, reaching the human king realm, it is difficult to reincarnate. If you want to reincarnate, you have to rely on the reincarnation substance. However, the reincarnation substance is rare in the entire universe C. They are very lucky. Reincarnation substance? Where does it exist? Lu Ming asked curiously. The others also pricked up their ears. It's an extremely dangerous place. Even immortals will die if they go there. It involves the secrets of the entire universe C. I don't know much about it. If you have the chance in the future, you can go and find out for yourself. The gravekeeper old man said. He didn't say anything else after that. Lu Ming and the others were a little disappointed. They had wanted to find out more about the reincarnation substance from the tomb keeper. While they were talking, Xian Yanjuan was already sitting cross-legged, accepting the inheritance. This type of legacy is no ordinary legacy. The corpses of the immortal Dao experts still have a bit of life force left behind. It will also enter their bodies, helping them to improve their bodies and souls, to forge a peerless body, to forge the strongest foundation, and to pave the way for the future. The gravekeeper old man added. This made the others even more excited. In the face of such an opportunity, even Lu Ming found it hard to remain calm. Everyone continued to try their luck. Sure enough, not long after, someone else obtained the inheritance. The third to obtain the inheritance was Bubble. The spacetime spirit mouse could control spacetime and possessed unparalleled talent. It had also obtained the favor of a peerless expert and was receiving his inheritance. Next was the myriad gods. He transformed into his primordial godly spirit form and stood as tall as the grave. His chi and blood soared into the sky. Above the grave, a giant with an earth-shattering aura appeared. The peerless expert of the Wu people. Every time someone obtained the inheritance, the gravekeeper old man would appear. From the gravekeeper old man's mouth, the one who obtained the inheritance was a peerless expert of the Wu people. In fact, Lu Ming and the others already knew that most of the primitive godly spirits in the universe were actually the descendants of the Wu people and the monsters of the Primordial era. The myriad gods had the bloodlines of dozens of primitive godly spirits, so it was normal for them to have the bloodline of the Wu people. 4 people obtained the inheritance in a row, which greatly boosted the confidence of the remaining people. Sure enough, more people obtained the inheritance. The 5th was Autumn Moon. The 6th was Lu Xiang. The 7th was Lu Qi. Then came Ling Yue Mulins and Huang Ling. In the end, only Lu Ming, Dandan and Bone Demon hadn't obtained the inheritance. The 3 of them looked at each other. Were the 3 of them so weak that the peerless experts in the tomb didn't like them? Impossible. My talent is unparalleled. How many people can compare to me? How could they not like me? They must have not met the right one. Dandan gritted his teeth. He was very narcissistic and thought that his talent wasn't inferior to others. How could he not obtain the inheritance? At this moment, the gravekeeper silently appeared again and muttered, "There are actually so many people who have obtained the inheritance. It seems like these existences can't wait for the great era to come even if they only have their instincts left. They want to pass on their Tao because they are afraid that it will be lost forever in the long river of time. Therefore, even if they are not very talented, they still reluctantly accept it." Although the gravekeeper old man whispered, Lu Ming and the others heard it clearly. The 3 of them pulled long faces. If their talent wasn't high and they accepted it reluctantly, then what were the 3 of them? Especially Dandan. Its turtle face was very long. It glanced at the gravekeeper old man unhappily and then rushed to a big tomb. In the blink of an eye, another 2 years had passed. Bus. On this day, another big tomb shone and another person obtained the inheritance. It was Bone Demon. Nest, it's not fair. This old guy has obtained the inheritance. He is so old that his teeth are falling out. What kind of genius is he? How can he be compared to me? Dandan wailed and suffered a great blow. It was understandable that others could obtain the inheritance. After all, they were all young geniuses. But what was Bone Demon? He was just an old guy, but he could obtain the inheritance. This made Dandan, who was very narcissistic and claimed to be a peerless genius, suffer a great blow. His face was so gloomy that it was about to drip water. He asked the heavens speechlessly, only feeling that the heavens were unfair. "It's your great loss that you didn't choose me as your successor," Dandan said hatefully in its heart. Of course, its body was very obedient and it rushed to another big tomb. This time there was a movement immediately. The big tomb shone and dense runes appeared on it, enveloping Dandan. Lu Ming vaguely heard Dandan laughing wildly. "I knew that I wouldn't be worse than others. I just didn't choose the right tomb just now. Putting everything else aside, I'm more than enough to suppress Lu Ming." Lu Ming was speechless. In fact, Lu Ming was also a little upset. It was not that he was narcissistic, but his talent should be the strongest among them, but now he was the last one and he didn't get the inheritance. Lu Ming was also a little depressed. Was there no suitable inheritance here? Don't be discouraged. According to my observation, the power you control is very special. I'm afraid there's no suitable inheritance here, so you can't have a special connection with the corpses of the powerhouses in the big tomb. The gravekeeper old man explained. Lu Ming was very disappointed. He didn't get such a peerless opportunity. It was really uncomfortable. Maybe this is not necessarily a bad thing. The gravekeeper old man said. Not necessarily a bad thing? Senior, please enlighten me. Lu Ming said, full of doubts. There was such a great opportunity in front of him, but he couldn't get it. Was it not a bad thing? Chapter 51:37. However, all true supreme experts need to forge their own paths. Only by forging their own paths can they walk the path of supremacy. However, obtaining the legacies of others will greatly limit their paths. It's already impressive if they can reach the level of those supreme experts when they were alive. Surpassing them will be extremely difficult. Naturally, to the vast majority of cultivators, this is a supreme opportunity. Let me ask you, out of the countless living beings in this world, how many of them are able to transcend and become immortals? If they obtain the inheritances of immortals, they would be able to establish a supreme foundation. In the future, their chances of achieving immortality would greatly increase. However, those who truly want to walk the path of supremacy won't accept the legacies of others. At most, they'll accept the guidance of others. For example, which of the 3 human kings will accept the legacies of others? They'll all walk the path of supremacy for themselves. You have talent and potential. You shouldn't restrict yourself, the old man said. All right. Lu Ming could only comfort himself with this reason. The old man vanished. The others all accepted the legacies. According to the old man, the process would not be quick. It would take many years. Lu Ming continued to temper his body and soul. In the blink of an eye, another decade or so passed. Now there were only 200 years left until the end of the calamity. At this moment, a great change occurred in the desolate universe outside. The power of the tribulation of the origin force dropped significantly. Powerful presences surged out from the depths of the forbidden grounds where the 8 races resided. Afterward, figures appeared in the air one after another. These figures all radiated with powerful presences, causing space to tremble. They were all reciprocity experts, and they were not early reciprocity. They were mid-reciprocity or even late reciprocity experts. Yes, there were still 200 years until the calamity. The power of the calamity had plummeted. Not only could mid-reciprocity experts move about freely, but even late reciprocity experts had removed their seals and could move about freely. Of course, peak reciprocity experts or those who had undergone the Immortals' tribulation were still sealed. Lu Ming, our mid and late reciprocity experts have all awakened. Let's see how you'll die this time. Many masters from the 8 races of the Forbidden Lands, especially those from the 5 Forbidden Lands in the West, were whispering. Their eyes were filled with intense killing intent. Subsequently, the experts of the 5 Great Forbidden Lands were dispatched to search for Lu Ming, but there were no traces of Lu Ming. They killed their way to the Ashen Cyan Divine Realm, but the Ashen Cyan Divine Realm informed them that Lu Ming was not in the Ashen Cyan Divine Realm. In the past few years, the formations and seals at the entrance and exit of the Ashen Azure Divine Realm had constantly been strengthened. The seals at the entrance and exit were extremely powerful. Even when a large number of mid and late reciprocity experts from the 5 Forbidden Grounds had come, they were unable to get through them. They could only retreat reluctantly. As for the Primordial Light race, the Balefulline race, and the Blue Sea race, they were far away in the Eastern Universe. It wouldn't be that easy for them to rush over. However, they went straight to the base of the Heaven Destroyer. Unfortunately, the base of the Heaven Destroyer was already empty. Not a single living being was left behind. The reciprocity experts who had sealed themselves in slumber had all vanished as well. They had been taken away. Damn it. The experts of the 8 families in the Forbidden Area could only rage helplessly. After a large number of experts from the 8 families in the Forbidden Area had awakened, a large number of experts from the Outerverse had also descended through the cosmic channel. They were all mid and late reciprocity experts. These experts had long since rushed over from other universes. They had been waiting for the origin tribulation to weaken, and when it could accommodate mid and late reciprocity experts, they would charge in. For a time, the antediluvian universe became even more chaotic. It could be said that origin realm experts were everywhere, and those below the origin realm found it difficult to roam the outside world. This was because they could encounter reciprocity experts at any time, and if they didn't get along well, they would be killed. The Ashen Azure Divine Realm had even called back everyone from the outside world. The 8 families of the Forbidden Area also allowed those below the origin realm to return to their headquarters. Those who roamed the outside world were all at the origin realm or higher. The various ruins and secret places in the antediluvian universe became even more lively. Experts were as common as clouds, and battles frequently broke out. Some of the ruins and secret places were opened. This was because even more experts had arrived and they were even stronger. There were all sorts of masters who were proficient in formations, and some of them had even brought powerful weapons with them. They broke into the various ruins and swept away all the treasures within. Although the humans in the Ashen Azure Divine Realm were aware of this, there was nothing they could do. These ruins belonged to the antediluvian universe, but now they could only watch as the people from the Outerverse plundered them. There was nothing they could do to stop them. Lu Ming was completely unaware of what was happening outside, and he continued to cultivate in peace. On this day, while he was cultivating in front of a large tomb, the primordial God stone in his sea of consciousness suddenly trembled slightly. As the primordial God stone trembled, the large tomb trembled as well. Light flickered, and a powerful aura spread out, as if a supreme existence was about to awaken. Following that, a figure appeared in the sky above the large tomb. It was a man in armor, and he stood tall and straight like a mountain. Although it was just a projection, it gave off an invincible feeling, as if he was facing a great universe. What's going on? Do I have to obtain the inheritance too? Lu Ming could not help but mutter to himself as he felt conflicted. He had the ambition to become the strongest, to carve out his own path. His goal was to become one of the 3 kings of the human race or even stronger. However, this was the inheritance of an immortal Tao human king. It would be a pity to miss it. When the figure appeared, the primordial God stone trembled like never before. Dense and mysterious patterns appeared on its surface. Could it be related to the Primordial God Stone? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. The Primordial God Stone came from the Primordial Divine Court, and it was the strongest treasure of the Primordial Divine Court's master. However, there was a legend that the Primordial God Stone was not created by the Primordial Divine Court's master, but was excavated from some ruins. From the looks of it, the Primordial God Stone was extremely ancient, and it was very likely to be a treasure from the previous era. In that case, it was not impossible for it to be related to the existence in the large tomb. Boom. At that moment, the figure above the large tomb rapidly shrank to the size of an ordinary person. He took a step forward and punched at Lu Ming. Damn, what's going on? Is he trying to snatch the Primordial God Stone back? Lu Ming was quite speechless. He had not obtained the inheritance, but he was attacked. How unfair was that? However, Lu Ming was not a person who would sit and wait for death. Even if the other party was an immortal Dao expert, he would not sit and wait for death without fighting back. Lu Ming directly used the Genesis art to transform into a 3-foot-tall figure. He wanted to take out the Battle God Spear to fight back, but he found that the Battle God Spear was isolated and he could not take it out. Helpless, he could only wave his fist to block. Boom. With a loud boom, Lu Ming's body trembled and he was forced to retreat. The figure continued to step forward and punched at Lu Ming. The seemingly simple punch seemed to contain endless mysteries. It firmly locked onto Lu Ming, and there was a terrifying momentum that crushed towards Lu Ming. There was no way to dodge. Chapter 51:38. The figure in the burial mound launched an attack at Lu Ming. The attack was extremely astonishing, bringing with it a mysterious and boundless aura as it pressed towards Lu Ming, making it impossible for him to evade. However, although the opponent's attack was incomparably mysterious, the power it contained was not too great. It was only comparable to Lu Ming's, but the aura it gave off was much stronger than Lu Ming's. Lu Ming howled as he did his best to resist, pushing his Genesis techniques to their limits. Boom, boom, boom. A series of explosions rang out. Lu Ming's body violently trembled as he was repeatedly forced backwards. He felt his chi and blood churn, nearly vomiting blood. The opponent's power was clearly similar to Lu Ming's, but its attacks were much stronger than Lu Ming's. Lu Ming was no match for it. Little one, this is your opportunity. Make good use of it. The old tomb keeper had appeared near Lu Ming at some unknown time. Elder, what's going on? Asked Lu Ming, feeling very depressed. The others had directly obtained the inheritance, while he had been beaten up. It was truly unfair. There must be something in your body that resonates with the existence in the burial mound. Although your Tao is not suitable for the inheritance, the other party's instincts have still appeared. Train your techniques and fight to your heart's content. This will help you hone your Genesis techniques," said the old tomb keeper. Could the Primordial God Stone belong to the being in the burial mound, and my Genesis techniques are also comprehended from the Primordial God Stone? Is that why the opponent is attacking me to hone my Genesis techniques? Lu Ming's thoughts rapidly spun as he came to this conclusion. He no longer felt depressed, and instead began to circulate his Genesis techniques with all his might. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged several dozen blows. Needless to say, Lu Ming was naturally no match for the opponent. After several dozen blows, he was already panting like an ox, his body in tatters. His injuries were not light. His opponent's power was clearly similar to his, but in terms of technique, it completely suppressed him. Every casual move of his opponent contained endless mysteries. Although the same amount of power was used, it was much more powerful. After blocking dozens of moves, Lu Ming had already reached his limit. As for that figure, it seemed to know that Lu Ming had reached his limit. Instead of continuing to attack, it transformed into a beam of light that shot into the burial mound and vanished. It's so intelligent. Is this just an instinct? Lu Ming mumbled. The existence in the tomb gave off the feeling that it was not completely dead. Or rather, it was as if there was a mark left behind. The existence in this tomb is known as the King of Mystic, a monarch of the immortal Tao. Existences at this level far surpass your imagination. He is truly dead, not even a trace of his existence is left behind. His movements are merely instincts that are inscribed in his flesh and blood. The gravekeeper seemed to be able to see through Lu Ming's thoughts and explained from not far away. Lu Ming nodded. He then sat cross-legged and circulated his energy to recover. His vitality was astonishing, and it didn't take long for him to recover to his peak. However, he did not get up. Instead, he closed his eyes and quietly recalled the battle just now. The various attacks of the King of Profoundness once again appeared in Lu Ming's mind. He indeed gained something from this recollection. He felt that the attacks of the King of Profoundness were a little similar to his Genesis techniques. Or rather, there were traces of similarities, and they were suspected to be of the same origin. The primordial God stone may really be the treasure of the King of Profoundness. Or perhaps it was not called the primordial God stone in the primordial continent, but something else. Lu Ming pondered. The origin of the name Primordial God Stone was because of the master of the Primordial Divine Court, but it was not created by the master of the Primordial Divine Court. It must have had another name in the previous era. Primordial God Stone? Lu Ming made a wild guess. After recalling the battle just now, Lu Ming had indeed gained a lot. He felt that he had a deeper understanding of his own Genesis techniques. Lu Ming stood up. With a thought, a Genesis technique was activated, and his body began to grow taller. But this time, Lu Ming clearly felt that he had not reached 30 feet. When he had just comprehended a Genesis technique, his body would become 30 feet tall when he used it. Later, as his understanding of Genesis techniques deepened, his body would become slightly shorter when he used Genesis techniques. It was less than 30 feet, but it was still close to 30 feet. At this moment he found that his body had become a little shorter and thinner. Although it was only a little and was very difficult to see with the naked eye, Lu Ming's spiritual senses were extremely sharp. Even if the difference was 10 times smaller, he could still clearly feel it. His Genesis techniques had improved. Lu Ming's eyes brightened, and then he strode towards the giant grave. When he approached the grave, the primordial God stone in his body trembled and glowed again. Then the burly figure above the grave once again appeared and attacked Lu Ming. Lu Ming swung his fist to block and continued the battle. After a few dozen exchanges, Lu Ming was heavily injured and was forced to retreat. The figure of the King of Profoundness once again disappeared into the grave. Lu Ming continued to treat his injuries. After his injuries were healed, he recalled the battle just now and gained a lot of knowledge. Then he fought again. In this way time flew by. In the blink of an eye, more than 50 years had passed. After more than 50 years, Xian Yanqing and the others had all succeeded in their inheritances. They had established a strong foundation, and their bodies and souls were all incomparably powerful. They were all close to the limit and were almost able to reach the body of tribulation and soul of tribulation. This made Lu Ming very envious. Lu Ming had been refined 7 times on the heaven trampling platform, and then polished here for a long time before he reached the body of tribulation and soul of tribulation. As for the others, after receiving the inheritance, they had also undergone a transformation and were about to reach it. I feel that I can break through to the origin stage at any time, but this place is sealed and it's not easy to break through. I plan to leave first and break through outside. Xian Yanqing said. We're still under the origin tribulation. I don't know if there's any danger in breaking through. Lu Ming said. Although Xian Yanqing was now extremely powerful in all aspects, Lu Ming could not help but worry. Don't worry. There are only 150 years left until the end of the origin tribulation. The power of the origin tribulation is already very weak. Even if you break through now, the pressure you'll face will be much smaller. Of course, the rewards you'll receive will also be much smaller, the gravekeeper old man explained. Only then did Lu Ming feel relieved. The others also followed him out, intending to take a look. This was because everyone's cultivation had increased a lot. Many of them felt that they were about to break through. Seeing Xian Yanqing suddenly break through in advance would enlighten them. Outside, Xian Yanqing began to break through. Sure enough, although he was still suppressed by the origin tribulation, its power was much smaller than when Lu Ming had broken through. Xian Yanqing did not spend too much effort to break through and reach origin. Of course, the rewards he received from the cosmic sea were much smaller than when Lu Ming had broken through. However, the benefits he received were also very extraordinary. Xian Yanqing's origin root had reached mid-level, and his cultivation had reached the peak of early origin. Everyone was very happy. They returned to the immortal graveyard and continued to cultivate. Chapter 51:39. Time passed day by day and everyone broke through one after another. After Xian Yanqing broke through, the second to break through was Guamo, followed by Autumn Moon, Tangjun, Bubble. When there were only 100 years left before the origin tribulation, everyone broke through and reached reciprocity. Even Xian Yanqing, who broke through first, reached mid-reciprocity. They had obtained the inheritance of an immortal, and it was no ordinary inheritance. These immortal Tao characters all died but their bodies remained. Their bodies contained an incomparably exuberant life force. During the process of passing down their legacies, the life force was slowly transferred to Xian Yanqing and the others, helping them to improve their bodies and complete their transformations. Their foundation was simply abnormally robust. Moreover, some of their power had been sealed in the depths of their bodies. As a result, their cultivation speed was astonishingly fast. This was the complete gift of an immortal. Even if those powerful great cosmoses did not lack immortals, how could they have such an inheritance when they were still alive? Of course, most of these inheritances were sealed. It was not only the remaining terrifying life force of these immortals, but also their Tao, their arts, and so on. Most of them were sealed in the depths of Xianyanqing and the others. This was because the Tao and arts of these immortals were too advanced and too profound. Some of them even involved immortal arts as vast as an abyss. With the cultivation of Xianyanqing and the others, it was impossible for them to control it. If they forcefully imbued it, their souls would explode. Only when their cultivation increased in the future and they slowly undid the seal could they truly obtain all the inheritances. In the past few years, Lu Ming had also gained a lot. Under the constant battle with the King of Profundity, he finally broke through the bottleneck and reached late reciprocity. At the same time, his physical body and soul were also slowly improving. Vaguely they had reached a new limit. After asking the Gravekeeper, he learned that he should have reached the limit of the first tribulation. If he broke through again, it would be equivalent to the body and soul of someone who had undergone the second tribulation. Of course, breaking through was more difficult than ascending to the heavens. This was because Lu Ming was only at reciprocity right now. He did not have the assistance of the true immortal tribulation. Although the immortal tribulation was fatal and was the nightmare of all cultivators, once one got through it, the benefits were huge. One's entire being would be transformed. Without the tempering of the immortal tribulation, being able to reach the first tribulation of the body and soul was already an incredible feat. To reach the second tribulation of the body and soul was simply too difficult. Of course, his greatest gain was his Genesis techniques. When Lu Ming cast his Genesis technique, he was only about 5 meters tall. He had shrunk by half of his previous height. The result was a sharp increase in the power of Genesis techniques, which was at least several times stronger than before. Lu Ming's battle prowess had once again skyrocketed. His ability to fight on the same level had also increased by a lot. Of course, he was at reciprocity right now, so it could not be categorized according to his battle prowess. Lu Ming had no idea what his current battle prowess was like. In short, he was very strong. As for how strong they were, Zhang Xian had no idea. He would only know after fighting them. There were only 100 years left before the Great Tribulation of the Origin. The power of the Great Tribulation of the Origin had decreased once again. Peak reciprocity existences could move freely. In the 8 clans of the Forbidden Grounds, peak reciprocity existences woke up one after another and stepped into the universe. In the Heavenly Human clan, the Masters of the Heavenly Palace also came out of their seclusion and went to excavate some ruins. Some top experts of the Heaven Destroyer, no, it should be called the Great Desolate Alliance in the future, also woke up. For example, the first Heavenly Sword, Shakyamuni Chenkuan Ao Qian, and the others all came out of their seclusion. Of course, there were also powerhouses from the outer verse. In the outer verse, a large number of peak reciprocity existences entered the Great Desolate Universe, causing it to become even more chaotic. However, existences at the immortal tribulation level could not awaken and enter the Great Desolate Universe. Existences at this level needed to wait for the Great Tribulation of the Origin to completely pass before they dared to awaken. This was because existences at this level had to face the immortal tribulation. If they entered the Great Desolate Universe now, not only would they be suppressed by the Great Tribulation of the Origin, but they might also trigger the immortal tribulation in advance, causing terrifying consequences. At this time, a shocking news spread. In those powerful universes, many Almighties deduced the location of a piece of the Great Desolate Universe's universe core at the same time. Previously, some Almighties had deduced that the Great Desolate Universe's universe core had been broken into 5 pieces and scattered across the universe, but they did not deduce the specific location. The main reason was that the Great Tribulation of the Origin had disturbed the heavenly secrets, greatly increasing the difficulty of these Almighties' deductions. Although countless people were looking for it, they did not find it. Now, there were only 100 years left until the Great Tribulation of the Origin. The power of the Great Tribulation of the Origin had been greatly reduced, and the interference to the heavenly secrets was also lighter. Many Almighties deduced the coordinates of one of the Great Desolate Universe's universe cores at the same time, and it was somewhere in the Western Universe. When the news spread, almost everyone went crazy. What was the universe core? The core of a universe, this was a heaven-defying opportunity. Even the universe core of a weak universe was an unparalleled treasure, not to mention the Great Desolate Universe's universe core, which was ranked 11th in the Yang realm at its peak. The value of this kind of universe core was immeasurable. Even if it was only 1/5 of the universe core fragment, it was immeasurably valuable. If a cultivator could fuse a universe core with himself, he would be able to establish an invincible great Tao foundation. His potential would be endless and his talent would be unparalleled. Moreover, he would be invincible. The immortal tribulation that ordinary cultivators would turn pale at the mention of was not a problem at all for existences who had fused with the universe core. They could easily pass through it. In other words, if one could fuse with a universe core fragment, it was almost certain that they would become an immortal. If one's talent was high enough, it would not be too difficult for them to reach the king level. Who would not be tempted? Who would not be jealous? Under normal circumstances, it was impossible to obtain the universe core. This was because whether it was the Yin world or the Yang realm, there were clear rules that powerful existences were not allowed to attack weak universes and seize the universe core. Otherwise, they would become the target of public criticism and be hunted down by the most powerful great universes. Of course, no one would care if one attacked the enemy's great universes. For example, if an expert from the Yang realm attacked the great universes of the Yin world and seized the other party's universe core, not only would the Yang realm not punish them, but they would also support them. Of course, one had to have the ability to do so. Immediately, countless experts rushed toward the coordinates of the universe core. Chaos began and a terrifying war was about to break out. At this time, a few old sighs came from the Azure Divine Realm. The universe core has been found in the end. It is a great disaster for our desolate universe. The desolate universe is recovering because of the universe core. Once the universe core is seized, the recovery of the desolate universe will come to an abrupt end. Not only that, but it will also regress and become even more desolate. Chapter 5140. But we're powerless to stop it, the several ancestors of the Tsangqing divine realm discussed in secret, their voices filled with helplessness and sorrow. The primitive universe was no longer the primitive universe of the previous era. The difference in strength was too great, and they no longer had the ability to intimidate the other great universes. They also couldn't stop the experts of the other great universes from descending and fighting for the treasures of the primitive universe. Summon everyone back to the Tsangqing divine realm and strengthen the seal and array at the entrance. If there's no other choice, we won't hesitate to close the entrance again, an ancient voice said. The other voices fell silent. If they closed the entrance again, they would be cut off from the world. Even they couldn't open it. If Mulins hadn't broken the seal with the special gem, the Tsangqing divine realm would still be cut off from the rest of the world, and it would be even more impossible to obtain the treasures in the ruins. They didn't want to completely close the entrance to the Tsangqing divine realm unless they had no other choice. Lu Ming and the others didn't know what was happening outside, and they continued to focus on their cultivation. However, they found that their progress was getting slower and slower as they continued to use the will here to temper their bodies and spirits. Their progress after a day of cultivation was almost negligible. They seemed to have developed a resistance to this place. Not only did the others encounter this problem, but even Lu Ming also encountered this problem. Not only was the progress of his body and spirit slowing down, but his speed of comprehending Genesis techniques was also getting slower and slower. On this day, the archaic god stone shone with dazzling light and trembled like never before. The figure of the king of Xian suddenly turned into a beam of light and charged towards Lu Ming's glabella. It charged into Lu Ming's glabella and directly entered the archaic god stone. The archaic god stone trembled even more violently, and with a loud crack, a crack appeared on the surface of the archaic god stone. Not good. Lu Ming's expression changed drastically. Was the archaic god stone going to be destroyed? That was too unfortunate. The archaic god stone played a huge role in Lu Ming's achievements. Whether it was the heaven-severing form, primal desolation form, or Genesis techniques, they were all comprehended with the archaic god stone as the foundation. Even now, the archaic god stone was still helpful to Lu Ming. Comprehending the patterns on the archaic god stone had given him a lot of inspiration, and he could constantly improve his Genesis techniques. Although the speed wasn't as fast. To be honest, Lu Ming really couldn't bear to do it. Crack, crack. More and more cracks appeared on the surface of the primordial god stone, densely packed together like a spider web. And finally, a layer of the stone layer. Yes, it was just a layer. Beneath the surface of the stone there were no cracks. It was a brand new archaic god stone. Lu Ming was stunned. There was actually a layer of stone on the surface of the primordial divine stone. Could it be that what he saw before was just a layer of stone? Was the archaic god stone under the layer? It was like a layer of seal. In the past it had always been sealed, and now because of the king of Xian the seal had been unsealed? Many thoughts flashed through Lu Ming's mind in an instant. Soon the layer completely fell off, turning into a ray of light and dissipating. A brand new archaic god stone appeared in Lu Ming's sea of knowledge. This archaic god stone was very similar to the previous one. Its surface was also covered in dense and endless runes. However, these runes gave off a feeling that they were hundreds or thousands of times more profound than the previous runes. They were like the vast universe, unfathomable. Lu Ming was curious. He stared at them carefully, wanting to comprehend them. All of a sudden, the runes began to twist and intertwine with each other, forming a figure. The figure's appearance couldn't be seen clearly. It stood above the archaic god stone and then punched out with a fist. Boom. Lu Ming felt as if the whole world had turned upside down and was about to be destroyed. His entire body felt a stabbing pain as if it was about to explode. His soul that resided in every cell felt like it was about to be destroyed. Break away, break away! Lu Ming roared and used all his strength to break away from the sea of knowledge. He no longer paid attention to the archaic god stone. Finally, Lu Ming succeeded. He retreated and broke away from the archaic god stone. Bam! Then Lu Ming sat on the ground and coughed out a mouthful of blood, gasping for breath. His body felt a stabbing pain. He scanned his body with his spiritual sense and found that there were cracks on his body like cracked porcelain. It was too dangerous just now. Lu Ming was still in shock. If he had acted a little later, his body would have exploded. His body and soul would have been destroyed, leaving nothing behind. Lu Ming, what happened to you? Young master. Xian Yanqing, Qiu Yu and the others rushed over and looked at Lu Ming anxiously. Just now they saw Lu Ming's body tremble violently, sitting on the ground and coughing out blood. They were almost scared to death, not knowing what happened. Could it be that the celestial god stone is really with you? The gravekeeper silently appeared at the side. His eyes were no longer cloudy but bright. He stared at Lu Ming as if he wanted to see through Lu Ming. However, in Lu Ming's sea of knowledge, there seemed to be a layer of mist around the archaic god stone, blocking the gravekeeper's prying eyes. Divine objects were concealing themselves. Some top treasures would hide themselves, preventing others from seeing them. Celestial god stone? Could it really be called that? Lu Ming was a little speechless. The taboo origin source energy continued to circulate in his body. His injuries were rapidly recovering. I can't see through it. You really have the celestial god stone with you. Little guy, what did you see just now? The gravekeeper asked. Senior, it's like this. Lu Ming immediately explained everything seriously. There was no way he could hide the primordial divine stone. Just now, the figure of the king of Xian rushed into Lu Ming's glabella. The old man guarding the tomb must have seen it. With the gravekeeper's knowledge, how could it be hidden? It was better to just tell him and ask the gravekeeper for guidance. It really is the celestial god stone. No wonder it could sense the king of celestial. According to what you said, the celestial god stone used to have a seal so you could comprehend the secret technique from it. But the seal has fallen off now. Little guy, don't try to comprehend with the celestial god stone in the future. You'll probably die. The gravekeeper warned seriously. Senior, what's on the celestial god stone? Why is it like this? Lu Ming asked seriously. A scripture, a supreme scripture. With your current cultivation base, there's no way you can comprehend it. Forget about comprehending it, even if you take a look at it, you'll explode from that supreme aura. Therefore, you have to wait until your cultivation base increases in the future before you can look at it and comprehend it. The gravekeeper said. Lu Ming was really speechless. He was at the late origin realm now, but he did not even have the right to look at a scripture. He would die from just looking at it. Who could he reason with? Senior, what cultivation do I need to look at it? Lu Ming asked. Chapter 51-41. Since there was a chance, it was better to ask clearly, lest he couldn't help but get himself involved. You have to be at least 6 immortal tribulations and close to a true immortal to be able to read it. However, if you want to really comprehend it, you have to at least prove your Tao and become an immortal. The gravekeeper old man said. Lu Ming was speechless. Well, Lu Ming was really speechless. The requirements for a scripture were so high. 3 days later, Lu Ming's injuries were healed. A few years later, Lu Ming and the others felt that their progress here was too slow. Although it was still much faster than cultivating outside, they were worried about the situation of the primitive universe. Counting the time, there was less than 100 years until the end of the origin tribulation. They planned to go out and see the situation. In addition, Lu Ming planned to send a dozen more people to cultivate here. For example, Lu Shenhuang, Ouyang Moli and the others. It It would be even better if they could obtain the inheritance here. Everyone discussed with the gravekeeper old man. The gravekeeper old man didn't refuse, but told them not to send too many people. It would be best if there were more than 10 people. Lu Ming and the others naturally agreed, then left the immortal graveyard and went to the area where the Azure Immortal Realm had moved. As soon as they returned, they encountered a few experts of the Azure Immortal Realm. Peak of Origin. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. One of them gave Lu Ming a very strong feeling. With Lu Ming's current cultivation and the other party didn't hide it, he could tell at a glance that the other party's cultivation was at the peak of origin. It seemed that the existence at the peak of origin could move normally now. Lu Ming. An old man greeted Lu Ming. He was very familiar with Lu Ming. Lu Ming also nodded and walked over saying, "Greetings, Elder Cheng." This old man was called Cheng Chuan. "You're Lu Ming. Heroes indeed come from the young." The peak of origin expert smiled and looked Lu Ming up and down, as if he wanted to see through Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming had restrained his aura and did not reveal the slightest bit of it. For a moment he actually could not see through Lu Ming's depth. However, when his gaze swept over the others, his pupils shrank. "You've actually broken through to the origin realm. You're really amazing. Your talent is peerless." This person sighed and the others were also shocked. One had to know that the Great Source Tribulation had yet to pass. Even though the might of the breakthrough would be greatly reduced due to the suppression of the Great Source Tribulation, not everyone would be able to make a breakthrough. In fact, even now, only a small number of extremely powerful geniuses were able to successfully break through. During this period of time, many geniuses from the outer verse had begun to attack the origin source realm, but their success rate was not high. At least 5 or 6 out of 10 would fail. However, the people beside Lu Ming had all succeeded. They could not help but be shocked. "I was just lucky," Lu Ming said modestly before changing the topic. "By the way, seniors, what's the current situation of the universe?" "Lu Ming, I have something to tell you. Currently, the various universes are fighting over the fragments of the cosmic core. Many fierce battles have erupted and countless people have died. The progenitors have ordered us not to participate. With our strength we can't compete with those universes," Cheng Chuan said. "Fragments of the cosmic core?" Lu Ming revealed a puzzled expression and asked Cheng Chuan for guidance. "The cosmic core is the core of a universe and it is also the core of the laws of order. Once it is fused, it can create a perfect foundation for the great Tao," Cheng Chuan explained to Lu Ming. "A few years ago, a powerhouse from the outer verse managed to deduce the specific coordinates of one of the fragments of the cosmic core. Countless experts immediately rushed over to fight for that fragment, and a fierce battle broke out. After a few years of fighting, one of them finally managed to refine the fragment into a spatial treasure and carry it with him," Cheng Chuan said. "Refined it into a spatial treasure?" Lu Ming's sharp senses caught something unusual. It's not that easy to truly fuse with a fragment of the cosmic core. Furthermore, it's very large, like a continent. If you want to collect it, you need to first control it and then use a powerful array to refine it into a spatial treasure. Then, you can slowly refine it until you have enough time to fuse with it," Cheng Chuan explained. "Not long ago, the powerhouses of the outer verse deduced that the second fragment of the cosmic core is located in the Eastern Universe. Now, countless powerhouses are rushing to the Eastern Universe. I heard that some members of your Great Desolate Alliance are also rushing to the Eastern Universe. We tried to persuade them, but they insisted on going and we couldn't stop them." "We can't stop them," another elder said. "The second fragment of the cosmic core is actually in the Eastern Universe. Someone from the Great Desolate Alliance is rushing there." Lu Ming and the others were shocked. The Eastern Universe had been searched through by various forbidden lands, but they hadn't found any fragments of the cosmic core. Where was that fragment? A spatial treasure? Lu Ming had many thoughts in his mind and he thought of the Great Desolate Ring. It should be a coincidence. Lu Ming shook his head slightly. Then he asked Cheng Chuan and the others for more information before bidding them farewell and heading to the Great Desolate Alliance's residence. As soon as he returned, he ran into many acquaintances. This was because almost all the origins in the Great Desolate Alliance had awakened. For example, Kuang Yuan. After Fei Huang lifted her seal, she left alone. Di Tianjian Ao Qian, Protector King Chen Kuan, and the others are rushing to the Eastern Universe. But don't worry, they're not going there to fight for the fragment of the cosmic core. They're just going there to take a look and return to the Heaven Destroyer station to take a look. They're bringing back some things. Lu Ming and the others sighed in relief. They knew that they had worried too much. How could Di Tianjian and the others not know that with their strength, they couldn't compete with those from the outer verse? Even the Azure Divine Realm didn't dare to compete, let alone them. They had a sense of propriety when doing things. Back then, although Lu Ming had transferred the Heaven Destroyer's life form and some important treasures over, he hadn't transferred anything that wasn't too valuable or difficult to transfer. Di Tianjian and the others must have gone there because of this. I want to take a look at the fragment of the cosmic core. Lu Ming pondered. He didn't covet the cosmic core, but he wanted to verify something. He was curious whether the Great Desolate Ring had anything to do with the cosmic core. At the same time, he learned that Di Tianjian and the others had borrowed a warship from the Azure Divine Realm. This warship was very advanced and astonishingly fast. It required a peak origin cultivation to drive it, and it wouldn't take long to pass through the void between the Eastern and Western universes. In fact, the powerhouses of the Outerverse were all driving similar treasures, and many of them had probably rushed to the Eastern universe. Those with insufficient cultivation would need a long time to pass through the void, but for peak origin existences, it wouldn't take long to drive a top-grade treasure. The Celestial Tribe and the Heaven Destroyer, Great Desolate Alliance, couldn't take out such a treasure, but those great cosmoses, forbidden lands, and the Azure Divine Realm could. Chapter 5142. After chatting with Ku Wangyuan and the others for a while, Lu Ming and the others began to arrange for the people to enter the Immortal Graveyard. Lu Ming planned to choose all of the more than 10 people from the Great Desolate Alliance and did not plan to tell the people of the Azure Divine Realm. The Immortal Graveyard was no small matter. Furthermore, the Tomb Keeper had spent a lot of effort to conceal the secrets of the heavens. Lu Ming did not know much about the people of the Azure Divine Realm. If he told the people of the Azure Divine Realm about the Immortal Graveyard, it would be easy for it to be leaked. After all, he didn't know the background of the people in the Ashen Azure Divine Realm. Everyone had family and friends. It was normal for the people in the Ashen Azure Divine Realm to leak this matter to his family and friends, and then to the outside world. Once it was leaked, it would definitely cause the experts of the Outerverse to flock to the Immortal Graveyard. Lu Ming would definitely not allow such a thing to happen. He would rather give the spot to the Great Desolate Alliance. Even if some people were not that talented, at least he knew their background. Soon, the 12 candidates were chosen. This time Lu Xinhuang and Ouyang Moli were among them. There was also Hai Zong, who had the bloodline of the Human King and was taught by Ouyang Moli. Lu Ming's two unnamed disciples, Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro, Tang Jian, Lion, Gu Changfeng and the others. Mulins and Huang Ling led them to the Immortal Graveyard. At this time, Lu Ming also suggested to Xian Yanqing and the others that he wanted to make a trip to the Eastern Universe. "We'll go with you." Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, Ling Yue and the others said in unison. Lu Ming shook his head and said, "I know you guys are worried about me, but with my current combat strength, as long as a sub-immortal doesn't appear, I can protect myself. Even if I can't defeat them, I can still retreat calmly." In the end, Xian Yanqing and the others did not insist on going with Lu Ming. They knew in their hearts that with Lu Ming's combat strength, it was indeed enough to protect himself. However, if they followed, they would implicate Lu Ming and become Lu Ming's concern. "Don't worry, I will return soon. You guys can just consolidate your cultivation here," Lu Ming said. Not long after, Lu Ming set off towards the Eastern Universe. He knew the ancient teleportation path, so he didn't need to go through the void. He went straight to the ancient teleportation path and used it to return to the Eastern Universe. As soon as he returned to the Eastern Universe, Lu Ming rushed to the original Heaven Destroyer base. However, not long after he flew out, Lu Ming stopped. This was because he felt a bracelet on his wrist tremble slightly. A powerful aura was emitted from it. Qiuqiu finally reacted. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. This bracelet naturally belonged to Qiuqiu. Ever since Qiuqiu swallowed the Human King's broken sword and spat it out, it had been in a deep slumber. It had been several hundred years since then. Lu Ming had been worried all this time. He was afraid that Qiuqiu had forcefully swallowed the Human King's broken sword and that the sword had damaged its core, resulting in some major problems. Now Qiuqiu finally moved, and the aura it emitted was extremely shocking. Swoosh! Qiuqiu flew out from Lu Ming's wrist and turned into a ball. It emitted a resplendent light, like a beating heart. Moreover, Qiuqiu's aura was constantly rising. Originally, Qiuqiu's cultivation was at the peak of the Divine Master Realm. Now, it had reached the limit and was charging towards the Origin Realm. At this moment, there were some people at the original Heaven Destroyer base. These people were actually from the Celestial Tribe. In the middle of the encampment of the Sky Exterminating Troop stood a huge statue of a handsome young man carrying a long sword on his back. This was the statue of the Forbidden Sword Ancestor, Tang Feng. The Heaven Destroyer was created by the Forbidden Sword Ancestor, Tang Feng, and the immeasurable heavenly demon Flying Phoenix. Tang Feng could be said to be the core of the Heaven Destroyer. Below the statue stood many celestial tribe members. These people were all important figures of the celestial tribe. If Lu Ming was here, he would definitely be able to recognize 4 of them with a single glance. They were the 4 masters of the heavenly palace of the celestial tribe. Other than the 4 masters of the heavenly palace, the other people were also important figures of the celestial tribe. Almost all of them were existences of the origin realm. Boom, 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 boom. From time to time, explosions could be heard from various parts of the Heaven Destroyer base. It was the people of the celestial tribe who were wreaking havoc. Divine light flashed, and some of the important places of the Heaven Destroyer were destroyed. These traitors sure run fast. They've all moved away. Otherwise we would have killed them all this time. It's indeed a pity. I don't know where they've gone. They've all moved away. We didn't notice so many people moving away. A few experts of the celestial tribe were discussing. Cold, murderous intent appeared in their eyes. We've been wreaking havoc here for more than half a month. Those traitors will probably rush over when they find out. Another person whispered. In my opinion, we should just destroy this statue and force them to show themselves. If they're hiding in the dark, they won't be able to resist. A young-looking origin realm expert of the celestial tribe said. This person was Yelu Xingqiang, a great enemy of the third demon sword. The two of them often fought in the past. To be called a great enemy of the third demon sword, his talent was naturally very high. His status in the celestial tribe was also very high. He was known as the future successor of the master of the heavenly palace. Therefore, although his cultivation was only at the mid-origin realm, he did not show much respect in front of the heavenly lords. Xingqiang is right. Let's just destroy Tang Feng's statue. One of the heavenly lords, Lord Ziwei, said. I'll do it. Yelu Xingqiang said. Then he took a step forward and a powerful aura erupted. At the same time, a golden spear appeared in his hand. Buzz. The spear vibrated and turned into a golden spear light. It was extremely sharp and pierced towards the statue's head. He wanted to destroy the statue in one strike. Clang. The statue shook and suddenly, a sword chi burst out. This sword chi was peerlessly sharp. As soon as it appeared, it broke through the universe's void and destroyed the golden spear light. It slashed towards Yelu Xingqiang. Not good. Yelu Xingqiang's expression changed drastically. He found that he had been locked on and could not dodge for a moment. At the critical moment, a figure appeared beside Yelu Xingqiang and pulled him back quickly. Then a large seal appeared. This was Lord Ziwei's move. He had struck out with a purple gold seal. Boom. The purple gold seal and the sword chi collided, erupting with a shocking rumble. Then the purple gold seal was pushed back, but the sword chi was blocked in the end. Lord Ziwei's face paled slightly. He felt his blood boil and almost vomited blood. I didn't expect a statue to contain such a powerful sword chi. Tang Feng is indeed Tang Feng. Lord Ziwei said. Circulating his origin energy, he quickly returned to normal. Yelu Xingqiang's face was even paler. If not for Lord Ziwei's help just now, he would have been killed by that sword chi. Even Lord Ziwei was pushed back. That sword chi was enough to kill him easily. Chapter 5143. Although Tang Feng is strong, our primogenitors aren't weak either. They can fight and even suppress him. Another Heaven Lord Shinji, said. That's right. Apart from Tang Feng and Fei Huang, there are no other traitors. They're destined to be destroyed. Heaven Lord Hongmeng added. Let's work together to destroy this statue. Heaven Lord Illusory Dream said. Tang Feng's statue had stood in the Heaven Exterminating Troops encampment for dozens of stellar years. It was the core of the Heaven Exterminating Troops' soul. The destruction of Tang Feng's statue was a huge blow to the Heaven Exterminating Troop. Boom, boom, boom. The 4 Heaven Lords attacked together. 4 terrifying rays of light blasted toward Tang Feng's statue. The statue glowed, and a shocking sword chi burst out to resist the 4 Heaven Lords. So it's a wisp of sword intent left behind dozens of stellar years ago. It's about to dissipate. You want to stop us? Heaven Lord Crepe Myrtle shouted coldly as he controlled the purple gold heaven seal with all his might to destroy the sword chi. The other 3 Heaven Lords did the same. If Tang Feng was really here, they would run as far as they could, but it was just a sword intent left behind over a few dozen stellar years. It had been injected into the statue when it was first cast, and after such a long time, it was about to dissipate. What did the 4 Heaven Masters have to fear? Sure enough, after half an hour, the sword intent was finally about to be destroyed. With a puff, the sword intent was finally destroyed. Boom, 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 boom. Four attacks landed on the statue. The statue shook violently and a crack appeared on it. The four heaven lords wanted to attack again, but at this time, a sword light slashed down from the sky. The sword light was vast like a galaxy, breaking through the darkness and slashing toward Heaven Lord Crepe Myrtle. The sword light's power was terrifying. Even Heaven Lord Crepe Myrtle didn't dare to be careless. He felt a great sense of danger. Buzz. Heaven Lord Crepe Myrtle controlled the purple gold heaven seal with all his strength and struck upward, colliding with the sword light. With a boom, the sword light was blocked, but the purple gold heaven seal was also blasted back. A woman appeared in the sky. She was a beautiful woman, wearing a snow-white swordsman's robe that outlined her graceful figure. She held a sword in one hand, and her long hair was tied into a ponytail. She looked heroic. First heavenly sword. Heavenly Lord Ziwei's pupils constricted as cold killing intent flashed in his eyes. This traitor was the greatest traitor in the history of the heavenly human tribe. The entire heavenly human tribe hated him to the bone. The main reason was that the first Sky Sword's talent was too high. No one in the celestial race had thought that this lowly mixed blood of the celestial race and the human race would possess such great talent. He had reached the peak of reciprocity at such a young age. This level of talent was definitely far above the few heavenly masters and was almost on the same level as Yi Qiuxian. The higher one's Sky Sword talent was, the more they hated. A dragon roar shook heaven and earth. A huge dragon claw grabbed down, grabbing towards Heaven Lord Shinji. Ao Qian. Heaven Master Shinji roared and blocked Ao Qian's attack. At the same time, another two terrifying attacks flew towards the illusory Heavenly Lord and Grand Mist Heavenly Lord, forcing them to focus on defending themselves. After the first heavenly sword, three more figures appeared in the sky. There was a tall and sturdy middle-aged man and two old men. One was wearing a gray robe and the other was wearing a black robe. The middle-aged man was naturally the World Annihilation Black Dragon Ao Qian. Of the two old men, one was Dharmaraja Chengkuan and the other was the Dark Sky Sect Master. All of them were the top experts of the Great Desolate Alliance. Very good, all four of you are here. Heaven Lord Ziwei's gaze swept past the four of them, cold killing intent flashing in his eyes. There's still us. With a loud roar, several figures rushed over from the distance. The one who had shouted was the third demon sword. Beside the third demon sword was the second divine sword in Tang Xiao. Including the first heavenly sword and the others, there were a total of 7 people from the Great Desolate Alliance. Good, today I'll send you all on your way. Yilu Xingqiang shouted excitedly. With just the 4 of you you're still lacking. The third demon sword snorted disdainfully and arrived beside the first heavenly sword and the others. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. More figures rushed over from all directions, surrounding the first heavenly sword and the others. They were all reciprocity experts of the heavenly human tribe. Humph, you want to keep us here with just these useless chickens and pottery dogs? The third demon sword said casually with a look of disdain. In a moment we'll block them. The 3 of you take the opportunity to move Master's statue away. Master must not be humiliated by them. The first heavenly sword secretly sent a message to the second heavenly sword, the third demon sword, and Tang Xiao. They had not arrived in advance. As soon as they arrived, they saw the 4 heavenly lords destroying Tang Feng's statue from afar. Other things could be tolerated, but this was absolutely intolerable. The first heavenly sword, the second divine sword, and the third demon sword were all Tang Feng's disciples, and they regarded him as a god. As for Tang Xiao, he was Tang Feng's eldest son. How could they tolerate the heavenly human tribe destroying Tang Feng's statue? So they attacked without hesitation. Attack. The first heavenly sword snorted coldly and attacked. Sword light burst out as if it could split the universe, and he took the lead to attack Heaven Lord Ziwei. At the same time Ao Qian and the others attacked at the same time. The 4 heavenly lords snorted coldly and met the attack fearlessly. The 8 powerhouses fought in the sky and the surroundings were in chaos. It was difficult for others to get close. When the first heavenly sword and the others attacked, the second heavenly sword, the third demon sword, and Tang Xiao also attacked, rushing toward Tang Feng's statue. Attack, kill them. Yilu Xingqiang shouted and attacked the third demon sword. Clang. The 2 of them exchanged a blow and they were evenly matched. As for the other heavenly human clan's experts, they all attacked the 3 of them. There were at least dozens of heavenly human tribe experts here, and there was no lack of late-stage reciprocity existences. Dozens of people attacked together and the power was shocking. Even peak reciprocity powerhouses did not dare to face it head-on. With the cultivation of Tang Jian and the other two, they would definitely not be able to block it. Just when the heavenly human tribe thought that this move could kill the three of them, a battle sword on the back of the second heavenly sword flew out by itself. When the sword flew out, it resonated with the sword ancestor's statue. A sword intent flew out from the statue and rushed into the sword. Buzz! The sword trembled violently, and a sword hum resounded through the universe. Then it slashed out a shocking sword chi, cutting through all the surrounding attacks. Not only that, at least 5 or 6 of the weaker heavenly human tribe experts were cut in half by the sword, directly cutting through their source roots and annihilating their souls. 5 reciprocity experts died tragically in an instant. It's the sword ancestor's sword. Damn it, the sword ancestor's sword resonated with the statue. The remaining power of the statue surged into the sword ancestor's sword, causing the power of the sword to skyrocket. Many people cried out in alarm, revealing looks of fear. Aha, now you know how powerful my master is. The third demon sword laughed loudly. Chapter 51-44. Clang. The sword ancestor's sword hummed as if it came from ancient times. The dazzling light illuminated the dark universe as if it had cut through the universe. It shot toward the origins of the celestial race again. A tiny sword mark appeared in space. It seemed small, but it was indestructible. It made the expressions of the celestial race experts change drastically. The sword ancestor's sword was originally given to the second divine sword by the sword ancestor a long time ago. It was not so powerful. Over 10,000 years ago, the second divine sword had used the sword ancestor's sword to repel the celestial race experts. But this time, the sword ancestor's sword resonated with the sword ancestor's statue. It received a boost from the sword ancestor's sword chi, so its power increased greatly. Even late reciprocity experts could not block it. However, the celestial race also had great weapons. The late reciprocity experts all took out great weapons. They were all treasures of the celestial race, such as the heavenly judgment spear. These great weapons were all very powerful. Legend had it that the celestial race's strength of the heavens was comprehended from these weapons. Clang, clang. The sword light from the sword ancestor's sword was blocked. However, the ancient weapons of the celestial race were also sent flying. The ancient weapons of the celestial race were pseudo-immortal weapons. These celestial race experts could not use their true power at all. After repelling the ancient weapons, the sword ancestor's sword slashed out again with a terrifying sword light. A few more celestial race experts were killed. Even a late reciprocity expert was heavily injured. How dare you, the divine secrets heaven lord of the 4 heaven lords roared. He held the heroic spirit disc in his hand and summoned a few heroic spirits of the celestial race. They were extremely terrifying and constantly attacked Ao Qian. At the same time, another heroic spirit charged toward the second divine sword. The heroic spirit of the celestial race extended a large hand and grabbed the sword ancestor's sword. Your opponent is me. How dare you be distracted when fighting me? You're courting death. Ao Qian roared. He had already reverted to his original form. His dragon body stretched for tens of thousands of kilometers. Although he only had 5 claws, his might was terrifying. The might of the dragon filled the sky. He was even more powerful than a real 9-clawed dragon. His dragon claws stomped on the ground, forcing back a few heroic spirits. His 2 dragon horns turned into 2 heavenly blades that slashed at mysterious gods' vital points. Heavenly Lord Divine Secret tried his best but failed to block it. He was still struck by one of the dragon horns and his origin root was almost shattered. Although he managed to avoid the fatal blow, half of his body was sent flying. The Celestial Clan was a life form from the outerverse, which meant that they were already suppressed in the vaster universe. This had only become more apparent after reaching the origin source. In a battle of the same level, the Celestial Clan would often be suppressed by the vaster universe's lifeforms. It was the same even for existences like the 4 heavenly masters. It was already difficult for them to fight someone of the same level, not to mention that Ao Qian had been able to suppress him while he was distracted. Ao Qian was not a simple peak reciprocity cultivator. He had already undergone the immortal's tribulation when he was at his peak. He was an existence that had undergone the immortal's tribulation. However, he had been heavily injured in the past and had almost died. He had only recovered to the peak of reciprocity now. As a result, his battle prowess was even greater than ordinary peak reciprocity cultivators. Heaven Lord Shinji naturally suffered greatly as he was distracted. Kill? Ao Qian shouted, wanting to take the opportunity to kill Heaven Lord Shinji. However, at this moment, a terrifying sword light came from behind Ao Qian. Its speed was extremely shocking, and its power was so terrifying that even Ao Qian's expression changed drastically. It was difficult to ignore. Whoosh! The divine dragon swung its tail. Ao Qian's dragon tail swung out like a divine whip and struck the sword light. Although the sword light was blocked, the dragon tail was also split open by the sword light, and a long sword wound appeared. An old man appeared behind Ao Qian. He was obviously a celestial clan member, but he was very old. His hair was snow white and his teeth were almost all gone. He seemed to be similar to the dozen or so strongest elders of the Lord of Heaven level who had appeared in the celestial clan back then, or even stronger. There was a hint of decay on his body. However, his battle prowess was many times stronger than the strongest Lord of Heaven. Peak reciprocity. This was actually in existence at the peak of reciprocity. At this moment, not only did an old man appear behind Ao Qian, even an old man appeared behind the first heavenly sword, Shakyamuni Chenkuan, and the Yintian hierarch. In addition, an old man appeared above and below them respectively. 6 celestial clan elders appeared all at once. Just the aura they exuded caused the void to tremble and crack. The expressions of the first heavenly sword, Ao Qian, and the others changed drastically. This was because these 6 old men were all peak reciprocity existences. Are those old fellows sleeping in the 5th heavenly palace finally going to make a move? Ao Qian said with a gloomy expression. Ordinary people did not know the secret of the 5th heavenly palace, but how could someone of Ao Qian's level not know? Most of those sleeping in the 5th heavenly palace were old monsters of the celestial clan. These old monsters had all survived from the previous era, and they were all true outerverse lifeforms. Of course, although the dozen or so strongest Lord of Heaven had also walked out of the 5th heavenly palace, they did not survive from the previous era. The old monsters who could survive from the previous era were all existences at the reciprocity realm at the very least. They were not creatures of the Forbidden Lands and did not have the means of sealing existences below the reciprocity realm and living for a long time like the Forbidden Lands creatures. However, because these old monsters were all creatures of the outerverse, they were also greatly suppressed by the prehistoric universe, even more so than the descendants of the Celestial Clan. The descendants of the Celestial Clan were all born in the prehistoric universe and were more or less tainted by the prehistoric universe's aura. They had a trace of the prehistoric universe's imprint, so they were less suppressed. Therefore, these old monsters were usually asleep and rarely made a move. They would only make a move when a truly major event occurred. For example, the destruction of the primordial god, the destruction of the heavenly court, and so on. Back then, Ao Qian had been injured and almost died because of the old monsters in the 5th heavenly palace. Otherwise, the heavenly masters would not have been able to deal with Ao Qian at his peak. Now that the great era had arrived and the universe was in chaos, these old monsters in the 5th heavenly palace could not sit still anymore. The origin tribulation weakened and they all came out of seclusion. We've been tricked. This is a trap. The first heavenly sword said with a gloomy expression. Clearly this was a trap set up by the Celestial Clan. They were deliberately causing trouble here to lure them over. The 6 old monsters of the Celestial Clan were hiding in the dark, waiting for an opportunity to attack. They wanted to destroy them all. The 6 old men stood in 6 directions and forced their way towards them. Gather together and break out of the encirclement. The first heavenly sword, Ao Qian, and the others transmitted their voices to each other. Then, the 4 peak reciprocity experts attacked with all their strength and repelled the 4 heavenly masters. They met up with the 3rd demon's word, the 2nd divine sword, and Tang Jian and charged in one direction. However, the people of the Celestial Clan had long guessed their purpose. They did not waste any time and directly attacked. Chapter 51-45. Boom. 6 old men and 4 heaven lords, a total of 10 peak reciprocity existences, attacked together. Their power was too shocking, as if they could destroy everything. 10 terrifying attacks blasted toward first heavenly sword and the others, wanting to completely crush them. Before the attacks arrived, the terrifying pressure had already pressed down on them. Among them, 3rd demonic sword's cultivation was the weakest, and his body seemed to be about to explode. Clang. Sword Ancestor's sword hummed and flew out. It slashed out with a shocking attack, splitting 2 of the attacks. However, Sword Ancestor's sword constantly trembled and flew back to 2nd divine sword's hand. Its light dimmed. This sword was only Sword Ancestor's sword when he was at reciprocity. It had been too many years and its power was not enough. It was already not bad that it could block 2 attacks. First heavenly sword, Ao Qian, Dharma King of Chenkuan, and the Dark Sky Sect's leader used their full strength and finally blocked the remaining 8 attacks. However, it was too difficult for them to fight 4 against 8. The 4 of them were all injured. They spat out blood and were heavily injured. Kill? Heaven Lord Ziwei and the others yelled. They wanted to kill First Heavenly Sword and the others in one go. The 10 experts of the Heavenly Human clan glowed as they circulated their origin energy to the limit and used their strongest attacks. You want to kill us? Dream on. Lightning of destruction. Ao Qian roared. He was really going all out. His huge dragon body began to shrink as rays of tribulation light shot out from his body. Ao Qian Yu, 1st Heavenly Sword and the others were worried. Ao Qian had yet to recover from his injuries. Forcefully using an immortal tribulation level attack would cost him a lot. If he was careless, he would be reduced to ashes. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Find an opportunity to break out. Ao Qian transmitted his voice to everyone with his soul. At the same time, Ao Qian opened his mouth and spat out black lightning. The lightning turned into small black dragons that swam through the void and blocked the attacks of the 10 experts of the Heavenly Human clan. Humph, forcefully using an immortal tribulation level attack. You're courting death. This was because the Heavenly Human elder snorted coldly. He hasn't recovered from his injuries. Even if he forcefully uses it, its power is very ordinary and it can't last for long. If we continue to attack, they'll definitely die today. Heaven Lord Ziwei said. These people's eyes were sharp and they saw through Ao Qian's background. The 10 experts continued to attack. Ao Qian roared and continued to spit out bolts of black lightning from his mouth to block the attacks. However, his aura fluctuated, clearly very unstable. His dragon body trembled slightly and cracks even appeared on it. Charge. Taking advantage of this opportunity, First Heavenly Sword and the others joined forces and charged in a single direction. However, the top 10 experts were too strong. They guarded the 8 directions. It was easier said than done for them to break out of the encirclement. In the end, the First Heavenly Sword also went all out, using his trump card, erupting with the strongest battle prowess, finally breaking out of the encirclement. However, they also paid a terrible price. Ao Qian suffered a backlash. He coughed up large mouthfuls of blood and almost died. Although he barely survived in the end, he was incomparably weak and powerless to continue fighting. The First Heavenly Sword was not much worse. She was hit by several attacks consecutively, and her body completely exploded once. She barely managed to reassemble, but her aura was very weak, and she was almost powerless to fight again. But after paying such a huge price, they finally broke out of the encirclement. Dharmaraja Chenkuan and the Dark Sky Hierarch led the First Heavenly Sword Ao Qian, the Third Demon Sword, the Second Divine Sword, and Tang Jian in a certain direction. Fly at full speed. Chase them. Don't let them escape. The Heavenly Lords roared and were about to chase. However, the 6 old men at the peak of reciprocity were even faster. At the same time, one of them yelled, "Leave them to us. You guys continue to stay here. There's a more important mission." When the voice was heard, the 6 old men had already chased the First Heavenly Sword and the others far away, disappearing from everyone's sight. The 4 Heavenly Lords and the other experts of the Heavenly Human race stopped. They did not chase after them. Continue to set up the forbidden weapon domain in this area and wait for Lu Ming to come. Heavenly Lord Ziwei ordered. The so-called more important mission was to kill Lu Ming or Gu Changfeng. The forbidden body was their biggest problem, especially Lu Ming. That was why the 4 Heavenly Lords did not chase after him. They had set up all kinds of backups here to wait for Lu Ming. Lu Ming's name shook the Western universe. He had slaughtered the experts of the 8 clans in the forbidden area and possessed a damaged immortal weapon. How could they not know? To be honest, they were extremely afraid of Lu Ming. They wanted to get rid of him at all costs. Therefore, they had secretly pledged their allegiance to a powerful outerverse and borrowed the Forbidden Soldier's domain to set up a trap here. Their primary goal was to kill Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming did not come. The First Heavenly Sword and the others came first. However, the First Heavenly Sword and the others were also one of their targets. Lu Ming did not appear now, but it did not mean that he would not appear later. Therefore, they had to continue lying in ambush here. With a flash, the experts of the Heavenly Human race scattered in all directions and set up in secret. The 4 Heavenly Lords looked around. After confirming that nothing was wrong, their figures flashed and disappeared into the void. They did not leave. Instead, they hid in the dark and waited for Lu Ming to appear. On the other side of the Eastern universe, Qiuqiu's breakthrough had finally reached a critical stage. Boom! A terrifying aura soared into the sky and shook the void. This aura had finally broken through a certain threshold and stepped into another level. Origin. Qiuqiu had stepped into the Origin realm. After Qiuqiu stepped into the Origin realm, it was like a floodgate had been opened. It was unstoppable. The aura that erupted from his body became more and more shocking. The energy that flowed through his body also became more and more terrifying. During this process, Qiuqiu's body violently squirmed and changed rapidly. In the end, he turned into a long sword. Lu Ming's eyes widened. This was because the long sword that Qiuqiu had turned into looked exactly the same as the Human King's broken sword. No, to be more precise, it was exactly the same as the complete Human King's sword. When the Human King's physical body had held the broken sword, he had activated a powerful energy and turned the broken part back into the complete Human King's sword. However, Qiuqiu's current appearance was exactly the same as the complete Human King's sword. Clang. The long sword hummed and tore through the void. A terrifying sword chi tore open a crack that was billions of kilometers long in the void of the universe. What powerful sword chi! It's actually a sliver of the Human King's broken sword's aura. Lu Ming was surprised at first, but he soon rejoiced. He knew that Qiuqiu was extremely talented. After devouring and refining a divine weapon, he could turn it into the appearance of that divine weapon and possess a certain ability of that divine weapon. For example, the illusory pillar of light from before had originated from this. Although Qiuqiu had not refined the Human King's broken sword after devouring it, he had said that he had devoured a sliver of the sword's essence before falling asleep. Chapter 51-46. Although Qiuqiu had not refined the Human King's broken sword, it had devoured a sliver of its essence. After all these years, Qiuqiu had been refining a sliver of the sword's essence. It was not strange for it to take the form of the Human King's broken sword after refining a sliver of its essence. Lu Ming looked forward to it very much. If Qiuqiu could possess a sliver of the Human King's broken sword's power, it would be extremely shocking. Just what level of weapon was the Human King's broken sword? That was a genuine immortal artifact. In the cosmic sea, no one could forge a true immortal weapon, whether it was the Yin world or the Yang world. True immortal weapons were all born naturally from the universe or from chaos. Every single one of them was a creation of the world. They were unfathomably profound. Boom. Qiuqiu took the form of the Human King's broken sword and his presence became even more vigorous. Powerful energy constantly erupted from his body as his cultivation rapidly increased. Before long, Qiuqiu's cultivation reached the peak of early reciprocity, but this was not the final stage. His presence continued to increase. Before long, Qiuqiu's presence skyrocketed once more, reaching mid-reciprocity. After reaching mid-reciprocity, Qiuqiu's presence continued to increase. It was just that the rate of increase was not as fast as before. However, it did not stop there. It was slow but firm. In the end, Qiuqiu's cultivation reached the peak of mid-reciprocity before truly stopping. Lu Ming, give me something to eat. I can still break through. I just lack energy. Qiuqiu's voice suddenly rang out. Here. Without any hesitation, Lu Ming waved his hand and streaks of light flew toward Qiuqiu. These streaks of light were all damaged source-grade weapons. There were several dozen of them. The most dazzling of them all were mirror fragments. These mirror fragments were pseudo-immortal weapons. Back then, the 8 clans of the Forbidden Land had used this pseudo-immortal weapon to deal with Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming had shattered it with the broken sword of the Human King. Lu Ming had kept it for Qiuqiu. Good stuff. Qiuqiu immediately sensed that these damaged weapons were impressive. He cried out in joy before opening his mouth and inhaling. All the fragments and damaged source-grade weapons flew into his mouth. Qiuqiu's body glowed as it used all its strength to refine these damaged source-grade divine weapons and pseudo-immortal weapon fragments. His body was like a furnace, wildly refining. In just a few days, Qiuqiu's body suddenly shook, and an even more shocking aura erupted. Late reciprocity. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. They were late reciprocity cultivators themselves, so they could clearly sense that Qiuqiu had indeed reached late reciprocity. Previously, he had only been a peak god lord, but as soon as he broke through several levels and reached late reciprocity. This was simply unbelievable. No one would believe it if they heard about it. It could only be said that Qiuqiu's talent was heaven-defying. Of course, the essence of the human sovereign sword was also incredible. Lu Ming could not help but wonder, if Qiuqiu could completely refine the Human King's broken sword, what level would its cultivation reach? Then he shook his head. This was not realistic. No matter how heaven-defying Qiuqiu's talent was, it was impossible for it to refine a complete immortal weapon if its cultivation was insufficient. Only after Qiuqiu's cultivation reached late reciprocity did it truly stop. It did not continue to climb. Only after a few more days did Qiuqiu's aura vanish. Its cultivation had completely stabilized. Lu Ming, is there anything else to eat? Qiuqiu turned into a ball and flew toward Lu Ming. It blinked its eyes, looking at Lu Ming with desire. "You've already refined what I gave you earlier?" Lu Ming asked. "Pretty much. Now that my cultivation has broken through, my refining ability has greatly increased. It's no problem for me to quickly refine source-grade divine weapons. I can even refine incomplete pseudo-immortal weapons very quickly." Qiuqiu returned to the alley. "You big eater," Lu Ming muttered inside. However, he was not stingy. With a wave of his hand, a few more source-grade divine weapons flew out. This time there were over a dozen complete source-grade divine weapons. He had given all the incomplete source-grade divine weapons to Qiuqiu before. Now that there were none left, he could only give the complete source-grade divine weapons. He had several hundred source-grade divine weapons on him anyway, so giving some to Qiuqiu was not a big deal. Qiuqiu swallowed them and showed a satisfied look. It then turned into a bracelet and put it on Lu Ming's hand. Swish! Lu Ming broke the void and rushed toward the former base of the Heaven Destroyer. On the other hand, First Heavenly Sword and the others were still running away. For more than 10 days, the 6 elders of the heavenly human tribe were like maggots attached to bones. They had been chasing after them relentlessly, refusing to let go. First Heavenly Sword and Ao Qian were in a bad state. They didn't have time to heal themselves and could only barely maintain their condition so that their injuries didn't worsen. Karmapa Chenkuan and the master of the Tianyin sect were also in a bad state. They had to take First Heavenly Sword and the others while defending against the attacks of the 6 elders of the heavenly human race. They were also exhausted and heavily injured after more than 10 days. If this continued, they wouldn't be able to escape and would be caught sooner or later. In their current state, once they were caught, only death would await them. It was impossible for them to be a match for the 6 heavenly human tribe elders. Damn it. If Master was still here, he would be able to suppress these old guys easily. Third Demon Sword growled. Sword Ancestor Tang Feng had disappeared for many years. If Fei Huang hadn't told them that Tang Feng was fine, they would have thought that something had happened to him. If Sword Ancestor Tang Feng was here, these people of the heavenly human race wouldn't dare to be so arrogant. Things are different now. Now that the universe passage is open, the overlords of the other universes have arrived. Even if Tang Feng appears, he can only lie on the ground. An elder of the heavenly human race grunted. However, from the depths of his eyes, one could still see a deep sense of fear. Forbidden Sword Ancestor Tang Feng was too terrifying. Almost by himself, or perhaps with Fei Huang, he was able to intimidate the heavenly human tribe's immortal tribulation stage patriarchs. If it weren't for Tang Feng and Fei Huang, the Heaven Destroyer would have been destroyed. In the 5th Heavenly Palace, a few immortal tribulation cultivators could flatten the Heaven Destroyer. Swish, swish, swish. While chasing, the 6 elders of the heavenly human race slashed with terrifying attacks. Although they were old, their auras were particularly terrifying. If they were in the universe, a casual attack could destroy a large number of stars and even a galaxy. Each of the 6 of them held a golden battle sword. When they slashed, a vast and terrifying sword light slashed toward First Divine Sword and the others. Dharmaraja Chenkuan and the Dark Sky Hierarch led the others and tried their best to dodge. They only blocked the attacks when they couldn't. In this way they were very passive and would be injured if they moved. Poof. Another sword wound appeared on Dharmaraja Chenkuan's chest, but he was expressionless and continued to lead the others. Humph, let's see how long you can run. It's useless. This time you're dead. The elders of the heavenly human race snorted. The chase and the escape went on for another 2 days. Dharmaraja Chenkuan and the Dark Sky Hierarch were in worse condition. Second Divine Sword, Third Demon Sword, and Tang Jian were very anxious, but they couldn't help much. Their cultivation was still a little weak. They were no match for peak-level origin source cultivators. Chapter 5147. There's someone in front, Dharma King Chenkuan suddenly shouted. The others' hearts sank and they had a bad feeling. If it was a heavenly human expert blocking the way, it would be really dangerous. They could see that there was only one figure in front. In the beginning, the figure was still very far away, but they could see that it was rapidly approaching. It was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, it was not far away. Lu Ming, it's Lu Ming. Third Demon Sword was the first to exclaim. We're saved. Legend has it that Lu Ming has broken through to the Origin realm under the Origin Tribulation and obtained a broken immortal weapon. It's extremely powerful. Ao Qian said, and his eyes lit up. When they were released from the seal, they heard the rumors about Lu Ming. At first they were dumbfounded. They did not expect so many things to happen in the 10,000 years of the Origin Tribulation, and Lu Ming could achieve such amazing achievements. It was extremely shocking. Now that they saw Lu Ming, they were overjoyed. Lu Ming's broken immortal weapon should be enough to deal with the 6 heavenly human elders. It's Lu Ming with the forbidden body. Sure enough, the 6 heavenly human elders could not help but stop when they saw Lu Ming. They were filled with fear. They naturally knew that Lu Ming had a broken immortal weapon that was extremely powerful. However, they did not retreat. Instead, they stood in the distance and stared at Lu Ming. Swoosh. Lu Ming had already arrived in front of them. "Seniors, how are you?" Lu Ming asked with concern. He did not expect to encounter First Heavenly Sword Ao Qian and the others before he arrived at the original Heaven Destroyer station. Moreover, he was chased by the heavenly human race and was seriously injured. "It's fine. I won't die." Ao Qian smiled. He looked at Lu Ming carefully and felt that Lu Ming's aura was powerful. He could not help but sigh. In just 10,000 years, Lu Ming had grown to such a level. He could not help but recall the scene when he first met Lu Ming on the Dragon Clan's mother planet. In the blink of an eye, he was no longer the young man from before. "Seniors, leave this to me. You can heal your injuries first." Lu Ming spoke, looking at the 6 elders of the heavenly human tribe. His eyes were filled with cold, murderous intent. "Lu Ming, don't be careless. They're all from the primeval heavenly palace. They're all old fellows who have lived since the last era." The 3rd demon sword quickly warned. "The 5th palace, the primeval heavenly palace?" Lu Ming whispered. The 5th heavenly palace, the primeval heavenly palace, had always been mysterious. Now it seemed that some of the old fellows of the heavenly human tribe lived in the primeval heavenly palace. "I understand." Lu Ming nodded, then stepped out and walked toward the 6 heavenly human elders. Over the years, he had been cultivating in the immortal graveyard. His cultivation had broken through to the late origin realm, and his Genesis arts had improved greatly. He was looking for someone to test his combat strength. These 6 elders of the heavenly human race could be used as whetstones. The first heavenly sword Ao Qian and the others knew that Lu Ming was in control of a broken immortal weapon, so they did not stop Lu Ming. They seized the opportunity to swallow a large number of divine pills and adjusted their breathing. Lu Ming seemed to be walking slowly, but he was actually moving very fast. He quickly approached the 6 elders of the heavenly human race. As Lu Ming approached, the bodies of the 6 elders could not help but tense up. Their pupils constricted and their hair stood on end. They were nervous. Forbidden weapon domain. When Lu Ming approached them, one of the elders suddenly roared. In an instant, a large flag appeared in each of the 6 elders' hands. The 6 large flags whistled and soared into the void. A strange domain quickly spread out, enveloping the territory within a radius of millions of miles. Lu Ming was also enveloped in it. "Oh no, it's the forbidden weapon domain. How can the heavenly human race have such a powerful forbidden weapon domain?" The 3rd demon sword exclaimed. "Lu Ming, retreat." Ao Qian and the others also roared. Let alone the heavenly human race, even the Great Desolate Alliance could take out a weak forbidden weapon domain. However, the 6 elders of the heavenly human race were not fools. How could they take out a weak forbidden weapon domain? The one they took out now was obviously used to block Lu Ming's broken immortal weapon. How could the heavenly human race have such a powerful forbidden weapon domain? Could they have obtained it in some ruins? No matter what, the situation was not good. Seeing Lu Ming surrounded by the forbidden weapon domain, the 6 elders of the heavenly human race were overjoyed. "Kill him." One of the elders reacted the fastest. He took a step forward and charged toward Lu Ming. The golden battle sword in his hand slashed toward Lu Ming's forehead with terrifying power. As long as Lu Ming couldn't use the broken immortal weapon, Lu Ming was nothing to be afraid of in their eyes. They could crush him to death at any time. They knew that Lu Ming had broken through under the origin tribulation, and his cultivation had reached the mid-origin realm. However, they were all at the peak of origin realm. There was a huge gap between the mid and peak origin realm. They didn't believe that a mid-origin realm cultivator could fight against a peak origin realm cultivator. Lu Ming, Ao Qian, the 3rd demon sword, and the others roared. Their hearts kept sinking. Even if they wanted to save him now, it was too late. They knew that Lu Ming had the broken immortal weapon, so they were very relieved and healed in the distance. Who knew that the heavenly human race had such a powerful forbidden weapon domain that could block the broken immortal weapon? They weren't prepared and wanted to save him in a hurry. How could they make it in time? Moreover, they couldn't figure out why Lu Ming had the chance to retreat earlier. When the forbidden weapon domain was first set up, Lu Ming had the chance to retreat and escape. However, Lu Ming stood there without moving. He seems to be about to attack. The first heavenly sword said. The rest of the people were shocked as well. They stared at Lu Ming without blinking. Seeing an elder charging over, Lu Ming's eyes were filled with excitement. The war god's spear appeared in his hand and he thrust it out. From the beginning he didn't plan to use Wang Chang to break the sword. Therefore he didn't feel anything when he saw the forbidden weapon domain. The war god's spear exploded the void and let out a terrifying whistle. With a destructive power, it collided with the heavenly human elder's golden battle sword. Clang! Boom! With an earth-shattering boom, a violent wave of energy swept out from the center of the collision between the two weapons. Then the golden battle sword vibrated violently. The heavenly human elder's body shook violently and he was pushed back. However, Lu Ming's body didn't move at all. What? In the distance, the first demon sword Ao Qian, and the others couldn't help but widen their eyes in shock. The other 5 elders of the heavenly human tribe were the same. Their hearts were greatly shaken. What did I just see? Lu Ming faced the enemy head-on. Not only did he block it but he also pushed the old man back. The third demon sword stuttered and almost bit his tongue. Late reciprocity. Lu Ming has actually broken through to the late reciprocity realm. Moreover, his origin energy is extremely powerful. It has probably surpassed the mid-level. Ao Qian said. Chapter 51-48. Kill? The heavenly human elder was extremely shocked after being repelled. He roared and charged towards Lu Ming again. This time he used all his strength and used a Genesis technique. Previously he thought that Lu Ming was an existence that he could kill at will, so he didn't use a Genesis technique. Experts who had reached the peak of reciprocity had almost all comprehended their own Genesis techniques. Those who could reach the reciprocity stage were not weak in terms of talent and comprehension. Even if early reciprocity experts couldn't comprehend a Genesis technique, mid or even late reciprocity experts could. Of course, there were strong and weak Genesis techniques as well as high and low Genesis techniques. Lu Ming still didn't use a Genesis technique. Instead, he waved the war god's spear to meet the attack. Clang clang clang. The two were extremely fast. After exchanging more than a dozen moves, there was still no clear victor. High-grade Genesis energy is indeed powerful, Lu Ming muttered in his heart. He had a general understanding of high-grade Genesis energy. High-grade Genesis energy was much stronger than low-grade Genesis energy. In a head-on collision, it would be completely crushed and could be easily defeated. The elder of the heavenly human tribe relied entirely on his higher realm and stronger power of origin to contend with Lu Ming. Lu Ming has really reached the late reciprocity stage. What a powerful battle prowess. In the distance, the third demon sword muttered to himself in shock. He couldn't help but recall the first time he saw Lu Ming. At that time, Lu Ming had rescued him from the prison in the heavenly palace. How high was his cultivation level? He didn't expect that in the blink of an eye, Lu Ming's cultivation level would catch up to him. No, it had already surpassed him. He felt a great blow. The other elders of the heavenly human race were also extremely shocked. Let's attack together and kill him. The other elders roared, planning to surround and kill Lu Ming. I'm not playing with you anymore. Lu Ming roared, and his body suddenly swelled to a height of about 5 meters. Lu Ming used a Genesis technique. Buzz. Rays of multicolored light surrounded the war god's spear and lashed out. Clang. The war god's spear once again clashed with the opponent's golden battle sword. This time, the golden battle sword exploded with a loud bang. The war god's spear did not stop and continued to strike the heavenly human elder. The heavenly human elder's body exploded like a balloon. Even his source root exploded, and his soul was instantly annihilated. A peak reciprocity expert had been slain instantly. It was almost an instant kill. The pupils of the other 5 old men constricted as a cold chill rushed out from their hearts. They had originally been prepared to attack Lu Ming, but now they couldn't help but retreat. The eyes of third demon sword and the others almost popped out of their sockets. What kind of battle prowess was this to blow up a peak reciprocity expert with a single strike? It turned out that Lu Ming had been playing around just now and hadn't used his full strength. Set up the formation. A heavenly human race elder roared. Soon after, the remaining 5 heavenly human tribe elders used their unique positioning techniques. The metal plates on their bodies shone brightly, connecting the 5 of them into one. In the end, they transformed into a gigantic battle sword. It's a joint attack formation. Ao Qian exclaimed. The expressions of the others also changed drastically. Joint attack formations at the reciprocity level were extremely rare. With their understanding of the heavenly human tribe, they shouldn't have one. They had fought with the heavenly human tribe for so many years, but they had never seen the heavenly human tribe use a joint attack formation at the reciprocity level. It was either obtained by the heavenly human tribe in some ruins recently or from other great cosmoses, just like their forbidden weapon domain. Kill. The 5 heavenly human tribe elders used a joint attack formation, condensing a gigantic battle sword and slashing at Lu Ming. Originally, they should have used a joint attack formation of 6 people. That would have been perfect. However, Lu Ming had killed one of them due to a moment of carelessness. They really didn't expect that Lu Ming would kill one of them so easily after setting up the forbidden weapon domain. However, even if there were only 5 people left to set up the formation, its power was still extremely terrifying. Just in time. Lu Ming was fearless. He just wanted to test his battle prowess and see where his limits were. He held the war god spear in his hand. He faced the attack head-on. Boom. Boom. The 2 sides continued to exchange more than 20 blows. Break for me. Lu Ming became more and more courageous as he fought. His battle intent burned fiercely, and his entire body glowed. That was the manifestation of his Genesis techniques being used to their limits. Bang. In the end, the battle sword formed by the heavenly human tribe elders shattered. The 5 heavenly human tribe elders were sent flying, coughing up large mouthfuls of blood. Cracks appeared on their bodies like porcelain. One of them in particular had a large hole in his body. He had been pierced through, and his Genesis root was densely covered in cracks. "I can't accept this," the elder roared, his eyes filled with unwillingness. Then, with a bang, he exploded and his body and soul were destroyed. The remaining 4 heavenly human tribe elders were horrified. Their bodies trembled as they looked at Lu Ming with deep fear in their eyes. The 5 of them had set up a joint attack formation, but they were still no match for Lu Ming. This was simply unbelievable. Lu Ming was only at the late reciprocity stage. The reciprocity stage was only divided into the early, mid, late, and peak stages. Therefore, the gap between each stage was very large and it was not that easy to cross. Moreover, they had set up a joint attack formation and its power had skyrocketed. Yet, they were still no match for him, and their joint attack formation had been destroyed. Such battle prowess was simply terrifying and unbelievable. Run! They turned around and ran. They only had one thought left, and that was to escape. They no longer had any thoughts of fighting. However, how could Lu Ming let them escape? Before the 4 elders could escape, he attacked again, thrusting out his war god spear. The 4 elders were already injured, and their battle prowess was more or less affected. How could they defeat Lu Ming? One of the elders was directly killed by Lu Ming. The remaining 3 old men fled in 3 different directions. They had to escape and inform the 4 masters of the heavenly palace of this news. This was because Lu Ming's battle prowess had completely exceeded their expectations. Even if they used the forbidden weapon domain to isolate the broken immortal weapon, it was useless. Lu Ming could crush them with his own battle prowess. If Lu Ming killed them all and went to the Heaven Destroyer station, wouldn't the 4 heavenly masters be doomed? Unfortunately, how could they escape? Lu Ming's current Genesis arts were too powerful. A pair of wings appeared on his back, and with a flap, even the first heavenly sword and the others could only see a flash of light. Lu Ming caught up with one of the heavenly human elders, and with a sweep of his spear, he killed the elder and then chased after the next person. Although the 6 heavenly human elders were all at the peak of the reciprocity stage, their origin power was only at a low level. Among the peak of the reciprocity stage, their battle prowess was not high. In fact, the first heavenly sword, second divine sword, and third demon sword's origin power were also at a low level. However, they were not old, much younger than the elders of the heavenly human race. It was not that their talent was too low. In fact, their talent was not low at all. Chapter 51-49. First heavenly sword, second divine sword, third demon sword, and even Tang Jian, although their origin power was of a low level, their talent was not low. Otherwise, they would not have been accepted as disciples by the taboo sword ancestor. The reason why their origin power was of a low level was related to the era they lived in. In the era they lived in, the chaos universe had not recovered. The chaos chi between heaven and earth was extremely thin, and the ruins of the universe were dead silent. Many of the remnants from the previous epoch did not appear, remaining sealed. It was very difficult for them to obtain resources for cultivation. It was far from as easy as it was now. Moreover, the laws of the universe were incomplete at that time and were far from as complete as they were now. The difficulty of cultivation was much higher. When the universe began to recover, the Great Tribulation of Origin descended. They had been in a deep sleep and had only awakened recently. In fact, from another perspective, they were very extraordinary. Under such difficult conditions, it was a miracle that they could cultivate to the origin realm at such a young age, or even the peak of the origin realm. After all, heaven-defying people like Tang Feng, Fei Huang, and Hun Ming were in the minority. In fact, First Heavenly Sword and the others were also confident that after awakening this time, they would be able to make a breakthrough as long as they spent some time. Although their Genesis roots were of a low level, they were at the limit of a low level and would transform very soon. Lu Ming's figure constantly flickered as he chased after the heavenly human elders. Soon the remaining 2 elders were all killed by Lu Ming. Their storage bags, origin-grade divine weapons, and joint attack formation carriers were all in Lu Ming's hands. Next, Lu Ming's body began to shrink as he moved towards First Heavenly Sword and the others. After this battle, Lu Ming had a rough understanding of his own combat strength. Although he had not unleashed his full strength in the battle just now, he could roughly guess. Ordinary peak origin experts were far weaker than him. He could deal with them without using Genesis techniques. Once he used Genesis techniques, he could completely crush them and kill them in one move. The truly powerful ones were Genesis techniques. He found that the power of his Genesis techniques was much stronger than the few elders of the heavenly human race. It's only reduced from a height of 10 meters to 5 meters. If one cultivates a Genesis technique to the advanced level and achieves 100% control, not even the slightest bit will leak out. It will be completely contained within one's body and there won't be any external changes. How powerful would it be? Lu Ming was looking forward to it. Through his years of cultivation, Lu Ming knew that the further he progressed, the more difficult it would be to master his Genesis techniques. Shrinking from 5 meters to the same size as his body was many times harder than shrinking from 10 meters to 5 meters. Of course, with every bit of improvement, its power would increase even more. Lu Ming, I didn't expect your strength to reach this level in just 10,000 years. Now I have to work hard. I have to catch up to you. The third demon sword greeted him with a smile, but the look in his eyes was somewhat complicated. The self-proclaimed genius of the third demon sword had been surpassed by a junior. The feeling in his heart was naturally not good. I was just lucky. Lu Ming smiled, and then he looked at Ao Qian and the others. Seniors, how are your injuries? Fortunately, we won't die. We will recover after resting for a while, Ao Qian said. When he looked at Lu Ming, he was very satisfied. Senior, what happened? Lu Ming asked. It's like this. The third demon sword began to recount what had happened at the former encampment of the Heavenly Extermination Army. Heavenly human race, master of heaven. Lu Ming whispered, murderous intent flashing in his eyes. Seniors, find a place to heal your injuries. I will go to the station and bring back some heads. Lu Ming said. Lu Ming, you have to be careful. They have probably set up a forbidden zone in the station. Also, I suspect that they have the support of experts from other great cosmoses. Ao Qian warned. I will be careful. Lu Ming nodded. Ao Qian and the others didn't say anything else. After all, Lu Ming's current combat strength was already strong enough. Now, the sub-immortals who had passed the immortal tribulation couldn't come out. Lu Ming was almost invincible, so they didn't have to worry too much. Immediately, Lu Ming escorted Ao Qian and the others to a more secluded place. He let Ao Qian and the others heal there, while Lu Ming flew to the original Heaven Destroyer station. Killing the elder of the heavenly human race wasn't enough. This time, Lu Ming wanted to kill the current 4 heavenly masters of the heavenly palace. Lu Ming was extremely fast. In just a few days he arrived at the original Heaven Destroyer station. From afar, Lu Ming saw many people of the heavenly human race causing destruction at the Heaven Destroyer station. However, he didn't see the 4 heavenly masters. Lu Ming knew very well that this was only on the surface. The 4 heavenly masters were most likely hiding in the dark. Lu Ming was bold. Even though he knew that the other party had set up a killing trap, he wasn't afraid at all. He directly stepped forward, and with every step hundreds of millions of miles of void passed by under his feet. When Lu Ming approached, he was immediately discovered by the people of the heavenly human race. There's someone here. It's him, Lu Ming, it's Lu Ming. He came alone. The people of the heavenly human race immediately gathered together under the statue of the Sword Ancestor. The statue of the Sword Ancestor had already been destroyed. Only half of it was left standing there. Dozens of heavenly human race experts gathered together and stared at Lu Ming cautiously. However, Lu Ming knew that the heavenly human race's cautiousness was fake. If they had secretly set up a forbidden weapon domain, why would they be cautious against Lu Ming? Lu Ming took a few steps forward and came under the statue of the Sword Ancestor, standing opposite the people of the heavenly human race. Seeing Lu Ming enter, the expressions of the heavenly human race relaxed. The cautious expression also disappeared and was replaced by cold murderous intent. You all should be killed for destroying this place. Lu Ming glanced around and said coldly. Haha, Lu Ming, you're so arrogant. I know you have a broken immortal weapon, but this place has been set up with a forbidden weapon domain. Your broken immortal weapon can't be used at all. This time the one who will die is you. Among the heavenly human race someone laughed. It turned out to be Yelu Xinxiang. At that moment, a formless yet powerful domain spread out and enveloped the entire area. The forbidden weapon domain was activated. However, Lu Ming's expression didn't change. All of this was within his expectations. Bang! Yelu Xinxiang took a step forward and pointed his long spear at Lu Ming. He said with a strong battle intent, without the broken immortal weapon, you're just a mid-stage origin realm expert. I'm also at the mid-stage origin realm. Let me see how strong you are. Yelu Xinxiang actually wanted to challenge Lu Ming. He was very confident. To be honest, he had the right to be confident. He was a monstrous genius of the heavenly human race. In the history of the heavenly human race, not many people could be compared to him. This could be seen from the fact that he could fight against the third demon sword. He had also reached the origin realm at a young age. Moreover, he was from the heavenly human race. Under the suppression of the primitive universe, it was really not easy to achieve such results. Chapter 5150. Yelu Xinxiang was a very confident person. However, after he woke up this time he kept hearing about Lu Ming. They were all about how Lu Ming was a genius, a demon, etc. As arrogant as he was naturally unconvinced. He was just a latecomer. He wanted to see how powerful Lu Ming was. He was confident that he wouldn't lose to anyone at the same level. Xinxiang, leave Lu Ming to me. I will kill him myself to avenge my son. At this moment, another member of the heavenly human race stepped out. His powerful aura was pressing toward Lu Ming. Your son? Lu Ming looked at the heavenly human. That's right. My son Yiling Tianshou was killed by you. Lu Ming, today I will cut you into pieces and imprison your soul, torturing you for eternity. Yiling Tianshou's father, Yiling Ganliudo, said with a face full of resentment. So you're that guy's father. Lu Ming was enlightened. When he first entered the universe ruins, he was chased by a young void beast and accidentally entered the heavenly star continent. Yiling Tianshou led a group of experts to guard the heavenly star continent, trying to seize the human king's right hand. But in the end he was killed by Lu Ming. After killing Yiling Tianshou, Yiling Ganliudo chased after Lu Ming, but Lu Ming escaped in the end. This time they finally met. No need to talk nonsense. Both of you can come at me together. Lu Ming said indifferently. Kill. When Yiling Ganliudo saw Lu Ming, how could he hold back? Whenever he thought of Yiling Tianshou's voice and smile, he couldn't wait to turn Lu Ming into ashes. He took a step forward, his figure like a goshawk, pouncing towards Lu Ming. Looking down from above, his golden battle spear pierced towards Lu Ming's forehead. At the same time, Yiling Xinxiang also made his move. Following closely behind Yiling Ganliudo, his spear pierced towards Lu Ming's forehead. Brr. Lu Ming suddenly roared. It was like a primordial beast had awoken. A terrifying sound wave erupted from Lu Ming's mouth, charging at Yiling Ganlu. Yiling Ganlu felt as if he had been hit by a giant hammer. Cracking sounds came from his body as his bones broke. His body flew back and vomited blood. Then Lu Ming reached out and grabbed Yelu Xinxiang's golden spear. The golden spear stopped in midair, unable to move at all. Yelu Xinxiang's eyes widened, filled with disbelief and shock. He was well aware of Yiling Ganliu's battle prowess. He was a veteran of the heavenly human tribe. Although his talent was not as good as his, he had cultivated for many years. His battle prowess would not be weaker than his. However, Lu Ming let out a loud roar and forced him to retreat with heavy injuries. He was almost scared to death. He felt a chill in his heart. After all, he wasn't an ordinary person. He instantly made the decision to abandon his spear and retreat. He wanted to get away from Lu Ming as quickly as possible. The four heavenly masters were hiding in the dark. As long as the four heavenly masters acted, he would be safe. Want to run? Lu Ming's lips curled into a mocking smile. He exerted force in his palm and the golden spear flew towards Yi Lui Xinqiang. Its speed was twice as fast as Yi Lui Xinqiang's previous attack. Heavenly Master, save me, Yi Lui Xinqiang screamed. His face was twisted with fear. He found that he couldn't avoid the attack. He was locked on by a terrifying aura. If he was hit by this spear he would die without a doubt. Evil creature, you're courting death. How dare you? Above the firmament, several roars came out. Then a purple golden seal came crashing down on Lu Ming. The purple golden seal's power was terrifying. It pierced through the void, turning it into chaos as it smashed down on Lu Ming. A large hand reached out to grab the golden spear, wanting to stop it. But at this time, Lu Ming's palm suddenly pushed forward. A taboo origin energy poured into the golden spear, increasing the spear's speed and hitting Yi Lui Shenchang. The tail of the spear hit Yi Lui Shenchang. Yi Lui Shenchang's body burst like a bubble. Without even a scream, Yi Lui Shenchang died tragically. Even his soul couldn't escape. On the other hand, Lu Ming was calm. He retreated slightly and avoided the purple-gold heavenly seal. Boom 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 boom. In the next moment, 4 terrifying auras appeared around Lu Ming. The 4 heavenly masters appeared, their eyes cold. Lu Ming killed Yi Lui Shenchang right under their noses. He deserved to die. Lu Ming, your strength is beyond our expectations. But it's useless. Today you will die. Heavenly Master Ziwei's eyes were filled with cold killing intent. You think you can kill me just because you set up a forbidden weapon domain to prevent me from using immortal weapons? Those 6 old men also thought so, but they all died in the end. Lu Ming smiled faintly. What did you say? The 4 heavenly masters' eyes shrunk as a bad feeling rose in their hearts. You should recognize the carriers of these joint attack formations, right? Lu Ming waved his hand and a set of combined array carriers appeared. It was left behind by the 6 heavenly human race old men. How is this possible? The 4 heavenly masters almost jumped up in shock. Of course they recognized that these were the combined array carriers of the 6 old men. How could such a precious thing fall into Lu Ming's hands? There was only one explanation: the 6 old men were dead. However, the 6 old men's battle strength was shocking. In a one-on-one battle, even if they were weaker than them, they wouldn't be far behind. Moreover, the 6 old men had the forbidden weapon domain and the combined array. How could they die? Killed by Lu Ming? How could Lu Ming be so strong? Retreat, retreat. The 4 heavenly masters were all very decisive people. Things had gone beyond their expectations. They roared decisively and rushed into the distance at the same time, intending to retreat. Since Lu Ming dared to come here alone after encountering the 6 old men, he must be confident. Things were out of their control, so they could only retreat first. Qiuqiu, didn't you want to test your skills? I'll leave 2 of them to you. Lu Ming said. Okay. Qiuqiu flew out excitedly. Its body quickly squirmed and turned into the shape of a sword. It was the appearance of a human king's sword. Swoosh. Qiuqiu broke through the void and slashed at one of the heavenly masters. Qiuqiu's speed was extremely fast. In a flash, it caught up with Qiuqiu. Qiuqiu was shocked. She could only stop attacking with all her strength and use a killing move. At the same time, an invisible energy spread out and shrouded Qiuqiu. This energy was extremely mysterious. If other living beings were to fall into it, they would fall into a dream. Even if they couldn't, they would create an illusion. However, all of this had no effect on Qiuqiu. The sword hummed and the sword light exploded, illuminating the universe and breaking through all obstacles. The Lord of the Illusion God's body stiffened in midair. A bloody wound appeared between her eyebrows, which then spread to the rest of her body. Her life force was rapidly fading away, disappearing completely in the blink of an eye. Her eyes were wide open. Even in death, she couldn't believe that she, the master of the heavenly palace, would be killed in a single move. Chapter 51-51. Qiuqiu was overjoyed after killing Lord Illusion in one move. He was very satisfied with his power. Then, with a flash of sword light, he chased after another heaven lord. The other heaven lord was Lord Hongmeng. He had witnessed Lord Illusion's death. At that moment, he roared in horror and fled with all his might. His performance was worse than a small soldier's. At his cultivation level and position, he was more afraid of death than ordinary people. Although he was usually high and mighty and remained calm in the face of major events, that was because he had never encountered anything that could threaten his life. Once he did, his mentality would completely collapse, just like now. He roared. As he fled with all his might, he also attacked with all his might, trying to stop Qiuqiu. But it was useless. After Qiuqiu transformed into the human king sword, his attack power was too strong. There was nothing he could not destroy. Sword light flew past, cutting through everything. Sword light flashed past, and Lord Hongmeng followed in Lord Illusion's footsteps. He was killed with a single strike. 2 heaven lords were instantly killed by a single strike from Qiuqiu. When Qiuqiu took action, Lu Ming took action as well. He used a Genesis art and a pair of wings appeared on his back. In a flash, he caught up with the first heaven lord, Lord Ziwei. Kill? Lord Ziwei's killing intent was very strong. Seeing that he was being caught, he stopped and turned around. He controlled the purple gold heaven seal with all his strength and smashed it at Lu Ming. An expert like Lord Ziwei naturally used a top-tier source-grade divine weapon. Bus. The war god's spear vibrated and lashed out, colliding with the purple gold heaven seal. There was an earth-shaking boom as the purple gold heaven seal shook violently. The place where the war god's spear struck caved in, and the purple gold heaven seal was sent flying back and slammed into Lord Ziwei. Lord Ziwei felt as if he had been hit by a great universe. He did not even have time to scream before his body exploded and he died on the spot. Lu Ming did not stop. Then, with another flash, he broke through the void and caught up with the last Heaven Lord Shinji. There was no suspense. The 4 Heaven Lords were evenly matched. Lord Ziwei could not stop Qiuqiu, and Heaven Lord Shinji's fate was sealed. He was killed by Lu Ming with a single strike. Oh my god. The other dozens of heavenly human tribe powerhouses who witnessed this scene all screamed in horror. In their eyes, the lords of the 4 major heavens were invincible experts who were just one step away from transcending their immortal tribulation. But now they were dead. Moreover, all of them were killed in one move. Even in their dreams they would never dream of such a scene. Yiling Ganlu was still alive. Previously, he had been seriously injured by Lu Ming's roar. He was lying on the ground recuperating, preparing to watch the 4 heavenly masters kill Lu Ming. Although Lu Ming's roar had injured him, he still believed that Lu Ming was no match for the Heaven Master and would be killed by him. But at this moment he was really scared to death. Even the Heaven Lord had been insta-killed. Ignoring his injuries, he turned and fled. Run. Run. Split up and flee. We must inform the Patriarch of this news. Dozens of heavenly human powerhouses fled in all directions. Qiuqiu, kill him with all your might. Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Qiuqiu. Lu Ming was pleasantly surprised by Qiuqiu's strength. As expected of someone who had devoured and refined a wisp of the Human King's broken sword and turned it into the Human King's sword, obtaining part of the sword's power. Its power was truly astonishing. Killing heavenly masters was as easy as chopping vegetables. Even Lu Ming felt a little guilty and didn't have much confidence in facing it. Of course, the stronger Qiuqiu was, the happier Lu Ming was. After being weak for so long, Qiuqiu could finally be a big help to him again. Swoosh. Qiuqiu turned into a sword light and chased after the heavenly human powerhouses. Lu Ming also flapped his wings and chased after the heavenly human powerhouses. He wouldn't show any mercy to the heavenly human tribe. Even if he had to wipe them out, he wouldn't hesitate. The first person Lu Ming caught up to was Yiling Ganlu. Lu Ming had no choice but to target him first. It seems that you won't be able to avenge your son's death. Lu Ming said indifferently, looking down at Yiling Ganlu with cold eyes. In the past he was chased everywhere by Yiling Ganlu. But now, Yiling Ganlu was just a chicken that he could kill at any time in his eyes. I'll fight you to the death. Yiling Ganlu roared. He knew that he couldn't escape, so he showed a crazy look and planned to self-destruct. His body swelled crazily. Hold it back. Lu Ming reached out a big hand and grabbed Yiling Ganlu. Then, with a squeeze, Yiling Ganlu's swollen body shrunk. Yiling Ganlu let out a desperate roar. He couldn't even fight with his life. In front of Lu Ming, he felt a deep sense of powerlessness. Ancestral Patriarch will avenge us. Yiling Ganlu let out his last roar. Then Lu Ming squeezed hard and Yiling Ganlu exploded. His body and soul were destroyed. Ye immortal? I'll kill him. Lu Ming said indifferently. He flapped his wings and chased after the rest of the heavenly human race. In the end, more than 20 heavenly human race experts were killed by Lu Ming and Qiuqiu. The remaining 10 or so still managed to escape. Origin realm experts could break through the void and escape. They were too fast. Moreover, dozens of them scattered and fled. It was very difficult to catch them. It was already a miracle that Lu Ming and Qiuqiu could stop more than 20 of them. The heavenly human race had suffered a great loss in this battle. How many origins did the heavenly human race have? More than 100, but more than 20 of them had died in this battle, including the 4 heavenly masters. Even the 6 old men from the primeval heavenly palace had died in battle. The heavenly human race had really suffered a great loss in this battle. However, this was not enough. Lu Ming's goal was to destroy the heavenly human race and destroy the 5 heavenly palaces. In particular, the Yi Immortal had to be killed. Although Lu Ming did not take the Yi Immortal's current battle strength seriously, Lu Ming instinctively felt that the Yi Immortal was very dangerous and had to be eliminated. He learned from the Gravekeeper that reincarnation was extremely difficult. It required reincarnation matter. Otherwise, even human kings would not be able to reincarnate. However, the Yi Immortal could do it. It was obvious that he had also obtained reincarnation matter. He was not simple. After killing the heavenly human race experts, Lu Ming collected the spoils of war and put some things that could be taken away into the Chaos Ring. Then he and Qiuqiu left this place and went to the place where the first heavenly sword and the others were recovering. After a few days, Ao Qian and the first heavenly sword's injuries finally stabilized and did not worsen. As for the others, their injuries were not serious in the first place. Now they were almost fully recovered. They planned to return to the Western universe and focus on recovering. That halo world is actually a fragment of the universe core. After learning this from the third demon sword, Lu Ming was stunned. This was a little beyond Lu Ming's expectations. That halo world, where the human king's body was sealed, was actually a fragment of the universe core. Chapter 51-52. In the past, Lu Ming and the experts of the Great Desolate Alliance, the Celestial Tribe and the Quasi-Immortal Tribe had fought over the human monarch's body. The halo world was like a complete world with a large number of desolate beasts living inside. There were even many Origin Realm desolate beasts. Moreover, those halos were very mysterious. Existences below the Origin Realm were fine when they entered, but Origin Realm existences couldn't get close. Once they got close, their origin roots would be absorbed by the halos. Now that he thought about it, those halos were probably set up by human monarch Shen Yuan to seal Teek's soul together with the human monarch's body. Yes, as far as we know, a large number of Outerverse experts have gathered in the halo world. However, those halos are very mysterious and powerful. The Outerverse suffered a great loss at the beginning and many Origin Realm experts died. Now, a large number of experts have gathered and are preparing to break those halos first. The third demonic sword Dao. Oh, the Outerverse people haven't entered the halo world yet? Lu Ming asked. No, we went to take a look around before. The Outerverse people seem to have joined forces to break the halos first. With their methods, I'm afraid they will succeed. The third demonic sword Dao. Lu Ming nodded, agreeing with this statement. In the past, the Celestial Tribe and the Quasi-Immortal Tribe couldn't do anything to those halos, but that didn't mean the Outerverse people couldn't. The Quasi-Immortal Tribe and the Celestial Tribe couldn't compare to those Outerverse people at all. Moreover, those great cosmoses had almighty figures guiding them. Breaking those halos was something that would happen sooner or later. In the past, the three tribes of the Forbidden Lands had also thought about the halo world, but no one knew if they had discovered something. However, they didn't break it. At that time, it was already under the Origin Tribulation. The three tribes of the Forbidden Lands didn't have any Origin Realm experts. Even if their foundations weren't weak, they couldn't break the halos. Sai were too weak. We can't compete with the Outerverse people at all. On the side, the second divine sword sighed. Damn it, I can't accept it. It's clearly the core of our universe, but it's going to be snatched by these outsiders and we can't do anything about it. The third demonic sword gritted his teeth. The others also sighed. This was a kind of sorrow. Losing the heart of the universe would have a huge impact on the primitive universe. In the future, not only would it not recover, but it might even decline and enter a degenerate age. However, they had no other choice as the difference in strength between them and the Outerverse people was too great. Competing with them would only result in death and there was no chance of success. They could only watch as the Outerverse cultivators snatched away the cosmic core. Lu Ming, did you come to the Eastern Universe for the heart of the universe? Ao Qian asked. Yes, I do plan to take a look. Lu Ming nodded. With your strength you can go and take a look. I heard that there are many opportunities in the heart of the universe fragment. If you're lucky, even if you can't obtain the heart of the universe fragment, you can still obtain many opportunities. It's a pity that we're not strong enough. Otherwise we would also want to give it a try. Ao Qian pondered for a moment before continuing. However, Lu Ming, even if you have the chance to obtain a fragment of the heart of the universe, you can't truly occupy it. Senior, I understand. Lu Ming nodded. How could he not know that Ao Qian was being considerate of him? Although the heart of the universe was a supreme treasure, it could also bring about a disaster. If he obtained the heart of the universe fragment, he would definitely be hunted down by countless experts in the Outerverse. No matter how strong Lu Ming was, he would still die. Only those powerful universes with great powers backing them would dare to compete for the heart of the universe fragment. Lu Ming, who had no backing, would not be able to keep the fragment. The Ashen Azure Divine Realm was also worried about this, which was why it had ordered its people not to compete for the heart of the universe fragment. Lu Ming was very clear about this. He had come this time to take a look and obtain other opportunities if there were any. As for the heart of the universe fragment, he did not want it. Ao Qian and the others were relieved when they saw that Lu Ming understood, but they sighed inwardly. This was the sorrow of a broken universe. The heart of the universe was originally a treasure of the antediluvian universe. Even if they had the strength to compete for it, it was not like they could not compete because they had no backing. Seniors, if you return to the Western universe, there is an ancient transportation path that can help you return quickly. Lu Ming then told Ao Qian and the others the coordinates of the ancient transportation path. After Ao Qian and the others left, Lu Ming headed towards the world of rings. With Lu Ming's current speed, it only took a few days for Lu Ming to arrive at the world of rings. It had been many years since he had been here, and the surroundings of the world of rings had changed drastically. In the past, this was the so-called thousand-year battlefield, where the Great Desolate Alliance and the Celestial Tribe confronted each other and competed for treasures. The world of rings had been sealed in the center of the swing battlefield. Later, the world of rings had broken out of the seal and torn apart the thousand-year battlefield, forming even smaller fragments of continents that were suspended in the surroundings. But now, a large number of fragments of continents were suspended around the world of rings. These continents were casually gathered together to form a ring-shaped continent that surrounded the world of light. It is said that the antediluvian universe recovered because of the heart of the universe fragment. It seems like it is true. These fragments of continents are probably gathered because of the heart of the universe fragment. Lu Ming pondered. Now that he thought about it, he suddenly understood many things. Back then, it was not long after the world of rings appeared that the antediluvian universe began to recover. On the surrounding ring-shaped continents, there were already densely packed living beings. Most of them were living beings from the outer verse. Lu Ming also saw people from the Primordial Light Tribe, the Balefulene Tribe, and the Blue Sea Tribe. In fact, the three tribes of the Forbidden Lands had long discovered the abnormality of the world of rings. They had arranged a large number of troops around the world of rings and had been studying it, but they had not found anything. Lu Ming changed his appearance and deliberately avoided the living beings of the Forbidden Lands. He mixed in with a group of living beings from the outer verse. There were many living beings from the outer verse who came here. There were people from both the Yang realm and the Yin realm. They came from at least hundreds of different great universes. Lu Ming mixed in with them and would not be easily discovered. Moreover, he could also find out a lot of things. Not long after, Lu Ming had a rough understanding of what had happened in the world of rings. About a few years ago, many powerhouses from the great universes had rushed here and wanted to charge into the world of rings. However, they had suffered a great loss. Many Origin Realm powerhouses had their origin roots devoured by the rings and died here. This shocked the powerhouses of the outer verse, forcing them to stop and start studying the world of rings in an attempt to break through the rings. However, these rings were set up by human King Shen Yuan, and the strongest living beings here were only peak Origin Realm powerhouses. How could they be so easy to break through? Chapter 51-53. The beings of the outer verse had studied it for several years, but they had not made much progress. Of course, the various great cosmoses had formed their own formations in the beginning. They all wanted to be the first to break the halos and enter to seize the fragment. However, after several years without any progress, some powerful great cosmoses came forward and urged the various great cosmoses to join forces and send out their strongest great formation masters to exchange their experiences. Some even left the primitive universe to seek guidance from immortal Tao figures to break the halos. It won't be long before those who left the primitive universe to seek guidance from the big shots return. When the time comes, they'll definitely be able to break the halos. That's right. Although the halos are mysterious, they can't stop the various great cosmoses from joining forces. Let's be prepared. Even if we can't get the heart of the universe, we'll still get some other opportunities. I heard that the heart of the universe nurtures peerless spiritual treasures of heaven and earth. Some can temper the soul, some can temper the body, and there are even treasures that are of great help to one's origin roots. Is that true? Of course it's true. When we fought for the first heart of the universe, someone obtained a spiritual treasure that transformed his body and made him reach the tribulation body realm. Even his origin roots evolved. Many people were discussing this topic. Many people's eyes burned with passion. In fact, many people had not come here to fight for the heart of the universe fragment. Many people knew their limits. Those who dared to fight for the heart of the universe fragment were the beings of the powerful great cosmoses. Only the top 100 great cosmoses in the Yang realm or the Yin realm had the confidence to fight for it. The weaker great cosmoses knew that even if they obtained it, they would not be able to keep it. Therefore, the majority of the people here were here for the other opportunities within the heart of the universe, those spiritual treasures of heaven and earth. Lu Ming was among them, listening while waiting. In the blink of an eye, another 2 years passed. Those who had gone out to seek guidance finally returned. They also brought with them the method of breaking the halos. The great formation masters of the various great cosmoses began to study it. Not long after, swoosh. swoosh, swoosh. Hundreds of figures flashed and rushed towards the world of the halos, landing in various places. The majority of these creatures were old men. They were very old, but the auras surging from their bodies were especially astonishing. They're all peak reciprocity experts. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. Hundreds of peak reciprocity experts was truly shocking. In reality, there were far more peak reciprocity experts present. They were all formation masters who were skilled in formations. The complete great cosmoses outside were too powerful. There were too many elites. The celestial race and the great desolate alliance couldn't compare to these great cosmoses. The difference was too great. Lu Ming was certain that if these hundreds of elders were outside the primitive universe, none of them would be weaker than the heavenly master of the heavenly palace. Attack! A voice rang out. The moment the voice rang out, the hundreds of old men around the ring of light moved at the same time. Their hands quickly formed seals and dense runes appeared from their hands. Hundreds of sources were constantly emitting runes. These runes intertwined in the void, forming a huge formation. Then it slowly pressed down on the halos in the world of halos. When the array formation came into contact with the halo, it began to squirm, forming runes that wrapped around the halo and slowly seeped into it. The light ring trembled slightly and the rune formation flickered. The hundreds of old men outside trembled and some even coughed up blood. Even if the others didn't vomit blood, their faces were pale. "We need reinforcements." An old man roared. Swish, 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 swish. This time at least 1,000 figures flew out and arrived behind the hundreds of old men. These people all radiated with astonishing presences. They were all peak reciprocity existences. Although these people weren't formation masters, they could pour their origin energy into the bodies of the hundreds of old men. With that, the formation set up by the hundreds of old men finally stabilized and continued to seep into the halos. Slowly the light of the halos dimmed. This continued for half a month. Finally, bang, bang, bang. The halos all exploded and dissipated into light. The world within the halos was completely exposed. A huge continent appeared before everyone's eyes. The continent was filled with mountains and rivers. It was filled with an ancient aura. The roars of desolate beasts and the cries of giant birds could be heard from time to time. The fragment of the heart of the universe. This continent was the fragment of the heart of the universe. Charge! Someone roared and charged toward the continent. At that moment, at least several tens of thousands of figures charged toward the continent, which was the heart of the universe. Several tens of thousands of figures, all at reciprocity, charged together. It was just too shocking and terrifying. Space shattered and the heart of the universe shook. Brr, brr. Countless desolate beasts roared and howled on the heart of the universe. This was because they felt like a disaster was imminent. Although there were desolate beasts at reciprocity on the heart of the universe, there were not many of them. How could they resist several tens of thousands of reciprocity existences? Suddenly, an earth-shattering roar came from one of the great canyons in the universe core. Then, a golden streak of light shot out of the canyon. The golden streak of light was just too fast. It covered an extremely large area, enveloping over a dozen reciprocity experts in an instant. Bang, bang, bang. The bodies of these reciprocity experts instantly exploded. Their origin roots were shattered and they died on the spot. A desolate beast. It's a sub-immortal desolate beast. Someone roared in fear. At this moment, everyone could clearly see that the golden streak of light was a huge golden bird. Its entire body was golden, and when it spread its wings, it was 1,000 meters long. It radiated with a terrifying might. At this moment, the aura radiating from the huge golden bird cut through space, turning the surrounding space into chaos. Even peak reciprocity experts were unable to approach it. They frantically retreated. This was a sub-immortal desolate beast. What was a sub-immortal? It was an existence that had undergone the immortal tribulation. Existences that had undergone the immortal tribulation could be said to have formed a connection with immortals, which was why they were called sub-immortals. The strength of a sub-immortal was far from what reciprocity experts could compare to. The difference in strength was like heaven and earth. Originally, sub-immortal existences could not appear before the origin tribulation. Not only would they be suppressed by the origin tribulation, but they would also trigger their own immortal tribulation in advance. This was extremely dangerous. They would die if they moved. However, this huge golden bird was clearly going all out. It charged out without any regard for the danger. To them, once the heart of the universe was taken away, they would lose their place of survival. At this moment, another great roar rang out from the heart of the universe. A huge white tiger as large as a mountain soared into the sky, crushing over a dozen reciprocity experts with a single swipe. It was another subimmortal desolate beast. Chapter 51-54. Two subimmortal desolate beasts appeared consecutively, but it wasn't over yet. A long howl came from an abyss above the heart of the universe. A huge black python rushed out. It was bigger than a mountain. It opened its mouth and sucked like a black hole. More than a dozen origins that were closer were directly sucked into its mouth. Among them, a peak origin existence didn't retreat in time and was also swallowed into the python's mouth without making a sound. A third subimmortal desolate beast appeared. Not only that, but two more subimmortal desolate beasts appeared in two other directions. There were a total of 5 subimmortal desolate beasts. Tens of thousands of origins retreated frantically, not daring to stay. The gap between the origin realm and the subimmortal realm was huge. Most importantly, the 5 subimmortal desolate beasts had undergone several immortal tribulations. Even if they had the advantage in numbers, they would only be sending themselves to their deaths. In the blink of an eye, tens of thousands of origins escaped from the heart of the universe and retreated to the surrounding ring-shaped continent. Set up the formation. On the ring-shaped continent, origin formations were set up one after another. Moreover, there were many combination formations. However, the 5 subimmortal desolate beasts didn't chase them out. Instead, they stood in 5 different directions of the heart of the universe and surveyed the surroundings. Now, it was less than 100 years before the origin tribulation. The power of the origin tribulation had decreased a lot. Even if the subimmortal desolate beasts woke up, they wouldn't die so quickly. They could last for a while. There are subimmortal desolate beasts residing here. Lu Ming felt a lingering fear. Fortunately, the subimmortal desolate beasts that resided here hadn't made a move when they were fighting for the human monarch's body. Otherwise, everyone who entered the heart of the universe would die. What should we do? A subimmortal existence has appeared. With such an existence obstructing us, it'll be very difficult for us to charge in, let alone refine the heart of the universe. As expected of the heart of the universe, it can actually nurture subimmortal desolate beasts. However, in my opinion, these subimmortal desolate beasts aren't too strong. It's not impossible to deal with them. Some experts of the great cosmos were discussing. Moreover, some very powerful experts of the great cosmos gathered together to discuss how to deal with the enemy. To deal with these subimmortal desolate beasts, we must first know how many immortal tribulations they have undergone. If they have undergone more than 4 immortal tribulations, we'd better retreat and wait until they die from the origin tribulation. It was an expert from the sacred light great cosmos. We happen to have a tribulation measuring mirror here. It can test how many immortal tribulations these desolate beasts have undergone. I'm just afraid that there are subimmortal desolate beasts sleeping in the heart of the universe. He came from the jade clear great cosmos and was at the peak of reciprocity. Furthermore, he was extremely powerful. Ordinary peak reciprocity experts were not his opponent. As a result, he had a very high status among the people who had come from the jade clear great cosmos. You actually brought a tribulation measuring mirror? Very good. Hurry up and test it. The experts of the sacred light great cosmos were overjoyed. Soon, the people of the jade clear great cosmos took out the tribulation measuring mirror and a grayish light rushed into the heart of the universe and shrouded the 5 subimmortal desolate beasts. The 5 subimmortal desolate beasts roared. They wanted to dodge but they couldn't. Soon they were enveloped by the light. They didn't kill their way out of the heart of the universe. Clearly, the origin tribulation had greatly affected them. They stayed in the heart of the universe and could borrow the power of the heart of the universe to resist the origin tribulation. They would be fine for a short period of time. Once they left the heart of the universe, they would immediately be suppressed by the origin tribulation. It might even trigger their own immortal tribulations in advance. The test results are out. 2 of the 5 subimmortal desolate beasts have undergone 2 immortal tribulations, while the other 3 have only undergone 1 immortal tribulation. The sage-like elder from Jade Clear Great Cosmos said, "The strongest is only a 2nd tribulation subimmortal. Alright, if we use a secret technique to activate the subimmortal weapon, we can definitely take them down." An expert from the Holy Light Great Cosmos was delighted. That's right. However, we can't let the people from the underworld enjoy the fruits of our labor. They have to take action, the elders said. That makes sense. The people from the Holy Light Great Cosmos nodded. Then, they discussed with a few powerful experts from the underworld. The experts from the underworld wanted to enjoy the fruits of their labor, but it was clearly unrealistic. If they didn't take action, the experts from the Yang realm wouldn't take action either. After the discussion, both sides took action at the same time. They took out their trump cards and killed the 5 subimmortal desolate beasts. Boom, boom, boom. Terrifying auras rose one after another. It was as if the universe had exploded. Terrifying energy swept out in all directions. They were weapons. There were a total of 7 of them. Each of them shone brightly and emitted a shocking pressure. The surrounding people retreated frantically, not daring to get close for fear of being crushed by this pressure. Lu Ming also retreated quickly with a solemn expression. Subimmortal weapons. These 7 weapons were definitely subimmortal weapons. Lu Ming could sense that kind of aura. Back then, the 8 races of the Forbidden Land had once taken out a subimmortal weapon mirror in an attempt to kill him. However, that mirror was damaged. There were cracks on it. These 7 subimmortal weapons were all complete and their grades were extremely high. At least, they were many times higher than the incomplete mirror that the 8 races of the Forbidden Land had taken out. This was because they wanted to kill a true subimmortal. If the subimmortal weapons weren't of a high grade, how could they deal with a true subimmortal? Under each subimmortal weapon, there were at least 100 peak reciprocity experts activating it. Generally speaking, it was very difficult for a reciprocity expert to activate a subimmortal weapon. Even if they forcefully activated it, they wouldn't be able to unleash much of its power. However, those powerful great cosmoses naturally had some secret techniques. With the cooperation of many experts, they could activate a subimmortal weapon. At most, they would pay a small price. The 7 terrifying subimmortal weapons transformed into 7 beams of light with terrifying power and charged toward the 5 subimmortal desolate beasts above the heart of the universe. The 2 second tribulation subimmortal desolate beasts were targeted by 2 subimmortal weapons respectively. The 3 first tribulation subimmortal desolate beasts were targeted by 1 subimmortal weapon. The 5 subimmortal desolate beasts roared and soared into the sky, using their killer moves to resist the 7 subimmortal weapons. Boom, boom, boom. A shocking explosion erupted. The void above the heart of the universe was completely shattered, turning into chaos. What terrifying power! Lu Ming's pupils constricted. That power far exceeded the reciprocity level. Even a peak reciprocity expert would be instantly reduced to ashes. Lu Ming secretly estimated his combat strength and discovered that even if he went all out, he wouldn't be a match for any of the subimmortal desolate beasts, even if they were only first tribulation subimmortals. Once one transcended an immortal tribulation, their strength would undergo a tremendous change. Of course, that was under the condition that he didn't use the human king's broken sword. However, although the 5 subimmortal desolate beasts were strong, they couldn't withstand 7 subimmortal weapons. Chapter 51-55. The 5 desolate beasts had been living in the heart of the universe. They didn't have quasi-immortal weapons, so they naturally couldn't unleash their full combat strength. Those 7 quasi-immortal weapons were at least quasi-immortal weapons that had transcended at least 3 immortal tribulations. When a cultivator transcended the immortal tribulation, he could choose a weapon to transcend the tribulation with him. After transcending the immortal tribulation, that weapon would also transcend the tribulation and complete a transformation, becoming stronger and stronger. After transcending one immortal tribulation, it would complete a transformation. The more immortal tribulations one transcended, the stronger it would be. Of course, not all weapons could transcend the tribulation together. Only treasures made of peerless materials could transcend the tribulation together. Otherwise, the cultivator would transcend the immortal tribulation, but the immortal weapon would be destroyed by the immortal tribulation. This was very normal and would happen from time to time. A quasi-immortal weapon that could transcend 3 immortal tribulations contained astonishing power. After being fully activated, even if it wasn't as strong as a true quasi-immortal, it wouldn't be too far off. The 5 quasi-immortal desolate beasts were completely suppressed. Lu Ming knew that it was only a matter of time before the 5 desolate beasts were defeated. Sure enough, not long after, a white tiger was beheaded by a sword-shaped quasi-immortal weapon. Its soul was also killed. Following that, the giant python was also killed. With the death of the quasi-immortal desolate beast, the outcome was already decided. Not long after, all 5 quasi-immortal desolate beasts were killed. However, this wasn't the end. The 7 quasi-immortal weapons charged into the depths of the heart of the universe and attacked the other desolate beasts. A casual attack would kill a large number of desolate beasts. Even the origin realm desolate beasts couldn't withstand a single blow and were easily killed. The 7 quasi-immortal weapons swept through the sky above the heart of the universe as if they were looking for other quasi-immortal desolate beasts. Suddenly, one of the spears smashed down at a mountain. Boom! The mountain exploded and a huge creature rushed out. It was a pangolin. It was hundreds of meters long and had a shocking aura. It was a quasi-immortal desolate beast. There were indeed quasi-immortal desolate beasts hidden in the heart of the universe. Moreover, this pangolin was extremely strong, stronger than any of the 5 desolate beasts from before. It was covered in scales that were invulnerable. Boom, boom. After a few consecutive collisions, 2 of the quasi-immortal weapons were actually sent flying. All of you must die. The pangolin went berserk. It didn't care about its injuries as it charged forward, knocking away a few more pseudo-immortal weapons. Then, it charged out of the heart of the universe. Its huge body pounced toward the experts of the various universes. Before the pangolin arrived, a terrifying force squeezed the void. Some people who couldn't dodge in time were directly crushed into meat paste. "Bastard, you're courting death," a young man shouted from the crowd. He wasn't afraid at all as he waved his hand and shot out a talisman. The talisman rapidly expanded and emitted a dazzling radiance. A supreme and eternal aura emanated from it. Then an illusory figure stepped out of the talisman. The figure was extremely hazy and illusory. It was surrounded by a layer of multicolored light, making it impossible to see its appearance clearly. "Kill?" The illusory figure shouted and pointed a finger. A huge finger pointed at the pangolin. Brr. The pangolin seemed to have sensed great danger and let out a loud roar. The scales on its body actually fell off, transforming into incomparably sharp blades that charged towards the finger. Boom, boom, boom. With a series of explosions, the finger was blocked, but many of the pangolin's scales exploded. The pangolin's huge body retreated rapidly as it bled continuously. "That's a true immortal's seal," someone exclaimed as they stared at the talisman. "It's a true immortal's seal. It contains a trace of a true immortal's imprint. Who is it that can possess a true immortal's seal? You have to know that ordinary true immortals won't give out a true immortal's seal. Once the imprint is damaged, it will affect the true immortal's body." Someone exclaimed. "It's Su Liangfu of the Clear Spring Great Cosmos. He's known as the strongest origin realm expert of the Clear Spring Great Cosmos. He's a peerless genius." "It's him. He's ranked 897 on the origin list." "That's right. The Clear Spring Great Cosmos is ranked 96th in the Yang realm. It's extremely powerful and has more than one true immortal. A genius like him would receive special treatment from a true immortal. It's normal for him to be bestowed with a true immortal's seal." Many people discussed. Origin list? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He was very curious. This was the first time he had heard of the origin list. As the name implied, it should be a list of origin realm experts. However, Lu Ming had no idea what the origin list was. He did not know how powerful someone ranked 897 was. The illusory figure condensed from the true immortal's seal struck again after its first attack was blocked. Another finger condensed and pointed at the pangolin. At the same time, the 7 pseudo-immortal armaments flew over and attacked the pangolin together. The pangolin was very powerful. It was suspected to have undergone 3 immortal tribulations. However, it was no match for such a powerful attack. It barely lasted for a few minutes before it was killed. Swish. The true immortal's seal flew back to Su Liangfu's hand. Su Liangfu showed a pained expression and carefully put it away. The true immortal's seal could not be used indefinitely. If it was used for too long, the true immortal's seal on it would dissipate. Afterward, the 7 pseudo-immortal armaments patrolled the sky above the universe core. They did not discover any new pseudo-immortal desolate beasts. Then, the 7 pseudo-immortal armaments flew back. The experts who had used the pseudo-immortal armaments all let out a long sigh. Their faces were pale. Clearly their vitality had been damaged. Even though over 100 experts had used a secret technique to activate the pseudo-immortal armaments, it was still very strenuous. They had paid quite a price. The desolate beast has been dealt with. Charge. Many people charged toward the universe core with burning eyes. However, with a flash of light, at least a dozen experts' bodies exploded and died on the spot. "What are you doing?" "It's the sacred light great cosmos." Many people roared and retreated. The ones who had attacked earlier were actually experts from the sacred light great cosmos. You were just watching from the side when dealing with the pseudo-immortal desolate beast. Now that the desolate beast has been dealt with, you want to take advantage of it? How can it be so easy? A young man from the sacred light great cosmos sneered. "That's right. Apart from the great cosmos that attacked earlier, no one from the other cosmos can enter." The sage-like elder from the Jade Clear Great Cosmos said coldly. The figures of the experts from the Jade Clear Great Cosmos and the Sacred Light Great Cosmos flashed and blocked a part of the void. On the side of the underworld, the experts from the Skeleton Great Cosmos, the Styx River Great Cosmos, and the Hellfire Great Cosmos also sealed off the void, preventing others from entering the universe core. Aren't you guys too overbearing? That's right. There are so many of us, yet you guys won't let us enter. Don't incur everyone's anger. Many people shouted. I have to go in. Su Liangfu from the Clear Spring Great Cosmos was very strong. Even when facing the experts from the Sacred Light Great Cosmos and the Jade Clear Great Cosmos, he did not want to back down. Chapter 51-56. The experts of the Jade Clear Great Cosmos and the Sacred Light Great Cosmos stared at Su Liangfu without saying anything. Then many more people stepped forward. They were all extremely powerful experts, and there was no lack of existences like Su Liangfu who had entered the origin list. This attracted the attention of the experts of the Sacred Light Great Cosmos, the Jade Clear Great Cosmos, and the Nether River Great Cosmos. This was because these people had extraordinary origins. Although they weren't from the top 10 great cosmoses of the Yin world, they were still ranked in the top 100. The great cosmoses that could rank in the top 100 of the Yin world and the Yang world were extremely powerful. They had powerful immortal Tao existences overseeing them and had deep foundations. Even the Jade Clear Great Cosmos didn't dare to underestimate them. After a final discussion, they decided to let the top 100 great cosmoses of the Yin world and the Yang world enter the heart of the universe together. These people from the great cosmoses obtained the right to enter. They immediately followed the example of the previous great cosmoses and sealed off all directions, forbidding others from entering. Even the 8 races of the forbidden area were blocked outside and couldn't enter. Damn it, these people from the great cosmoses are too overbearing. We have so many experts on our side. Why don't we join forces and charge in? Although they are strong, the strongest is only at the peak of origin. We might not be weak. Someone suggested. The overall strength of those great cosmoses was terrifying. They had countless experts and were much stronger than the great cosmoses below them. However, that was referring to the peak experts, the experts above the subimmortal level. Now those experts couldn't enter. The strongest was only at the peak of origin. Those weak great cosmoses also had many peak of origin. If they joined forces, they might not be afraid of those powerful great cosmoses. You dare to attack the people of the Jade Clear Great Cosmos and the Sacred Light Great Cosmos? Aren't you afraid of their revenge? Someone spoke and the others shut up. Indeed, although they weren't afraid of the people of the Jade Clear Great Cosmos and the Sacred Light Great Cosmos in the primitive universe, what if they left the primitive universe in the future? Similarly, the Yin world wouldn't dare to attack the people of the Bone Great Cosmos and the Nether River Great Cosmos. Isn't that simple? Let's discuss with the people of the Yin world and let them deal with the great cosmoses of the Yang world and the great cosmoses of the Yin world. At that moment, a voice came from the crowd. This voice was sometimes close and sometimes far, sometimes light and sometimes heavy, making it impossible to tell who was speaking. The person who spoke was Lu Ming. He had changed his appearance and spread his origin source power in different directions as he spoke. He was mainly afraid of being targeted by the people from the Jade Clear Great Cosmos and the Sacred Light Great Cosmos. After all, it was his idea. As expected, many people's eyes lit up when they heard Lu Ming's words. That was indeed the case. Wouldn't it be fine as long as he discussed with the people of the underworld and exchanged the direction of attack? If they attacked the people of the Yin world, the people of the Jade Clear Great Cosmos and the Sacred Light Great Cosmos would have nothing to say. Were they not allowed to attack the people of the Yin world? After all, the Jade Clear Great Cosmos and the Sacred Light Great Cosmos couldn't cover the sky with one hand. In the Yang realm, there were always powers that could keep them in check. It was the same in the Netherworld. Immediately, the Yang realm sent out a representative to discuss with the representatives of the underworld, and both sides hit it off. There was no such thing as an eternal enemy. In the face of benefits, even enemies could temporarily join forces. Weaker universes like the Yang realm and the Yin realm had joined forces and gathered a large number of experts. Charge! With a loud roar, a large number of experts gathered into a torrent and rushed toward the heart of the universe. The difference was that the living beings of the Yang realm rushed toward the Styx River Great Cosmos and the Skeleton Great Cosmos, while the living beings of the Yin world rushed toward the Jade Clear Great Cosmos and the Sacred Light Great Cosmos. Damn it! Those powerful living beings of the Great Cosmos naturally knew that it was intentional, but there was nothing they could do. The living beings of the Yin world were not afraid of them. Both sides collided and blood splattered everywhere. Many people died directly. Let them in. In the end, those powerful living beings of the Great Cosmos had no choice but to give way to the blockade. Those weak Great Cosmos might not have that many experts individually, but when they joined forces they had more experts than them. They could not stop them at all. Immediately, a large number of living beings rushed into the heart of the universe. Lu Ming also blended into the crowd and entered the heart of the universe. This was his second time entering this continent. The last time was when he was fighting for the human monarch's body. After more than 10,000 years, Lu Ming still felt that the aura of this continent was very similar to the Chaos Ring. At the same time, Lu Ming thought of the Azure Divine Realm. The auras of these three places were somewhat similar. Was it a coincidence or was there an internal reason? It was a pity that Lu Ming had not been to the first heart of the universe. Otherwise he could make a comparison. A large number of living beings rushed toward the center of the heart of the universe. According to the previous experience of fighting for the heart of the universe, if one wanted to obtain the heart of the universe, they had to fuse with the soul of the heart of the universe and refine the soul. Only then would they be considered to have gained initial control of the heart of the universe. After that, they could set up an array and shrink the heart of the universe, refining it into a spatial treasure that could be carried around. The soul of the heart of the universe was deep underground. In the center of the heart of the universe, there should be a passage that led directly to the Earth's core. The powerful desolate beasts on the heart of the universe had mostly been dealt with. The remaining desolate beasts were at the origin source realm, so how could they resist the experts of the outerverse? A large number of living beings rushed past, leaving behind a large number of desolate beast corpses and a river of blood. Soon the group arrived at the center of the heart of the universe. This place was not very far from where the human king's body was sealed. However, over 10,000 years ago, Lu Ming and the others' main goal had been the human king's body. They had not carefully investigated this place, so they did not know that there was a huge abyss here. Yes, it was an abyss. It was like a huge well that was pitch black. No one knew how deep it was. This abyss led directly to the depths of the earth. The heart of the universe was not to be underestimated. It was sturdy and indestructible. If it were not for this natural abyss, the group would not have been able to reach the depths of the earth, break through the earth's crust and penetrate the underground rock layer. No one hesitated. As soon as they arrived near the abyss, they immediately rushed in. There were at least 100,000 Origin Realm experts here. However, the abyss was incomparably huge. With 100,000 people rushing in at the same time, it was not crowded at all. After descending for hundreds of thousands of kilometers, a trace of red light gradually seeped out from below. They were almost at the bottom. Soon they reached the end of the abyss. The space below suddenly opened up. A surging wave of liveliness washed over them. Below them was a sea of lava that stretched as far as the eye could see. No, it was not lava. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed as he carefully observed the sea of flames that stretched as far as the eye could see. It was not lava, but flames that had turned into liquid. Liquid flames. They were all liquid flames, and their temperature was tens of thousands of times higher than ordinary lava. Chapter 51-57. The liquid flames formed an ocean that stretched as far as the eye could see. It was terrifyingly hot. Even reciprocity existences needed to focus and circulate their origin energy to resist. If existences below reciprocity entered this place, they would probably be burnt to a crisp by the terrifying heat. This sea of fire is only the surface. Only by passing through this layer of fire can we truly reach the depths. Let's go. Plop, plop. Many experts plunged into the sea of fire, kicking up waves of fire. But in the next moment, many people charged out of the sea of fire. Their faces were filled with panic. Gaga. A few shrieks rang out from the sea of fire. Several large birds charged out of the sea of fire, lunging at the experts. Phoenixes? No, they're not phoenixes. A gleam of light flashed through Lu Ming's eyes. The large birds seemed extremely similar to fire phoenixes, but at a closer glance there were some differences. They were not true fire phoenixes, only somewhat similar. The large birds were covered in flames as if they were condensed from fire. They radiated with shocking heat as they flapped their wings, lunging at the creatures that had just entered the sea of fire. Spurt. One of the creatures that resembled a tiger was grabbed by a bird and directly killed. That was a late reciprocity existence, but he had been slain in a single move. Peak reciprocity birds. I never thought that there would be desolate beasts in the depths of the earth. Just kill them. A few peak reciprocity experts took action, but the birds knew when to stop. They dove into the sea of fire and vanished. What happened? How many of these birds are there in the sea of fire? Someone asked the people who had just escaped from the sea of fire. There are a lot. With just a quick glance there are at least 100 of them. They're extremely powerful too, especially in the sea of fire, a person explained. Rumble. Suddenly, a great rumble erupted from the sea of fire. The sea of fire began to churn violently as waves surged into the sky. The liquid flames swept through the sky as if they wanted to pull everyone into the sea of fire. Many experts took action at the same time, unleashing terrifying energy to block the sea of fire. A sharp cry rang out as a gigantic flaming bird rushed out. Its terrifying aura was intimidating. This bird of fire was several times larger than the ones from before. It moved with shocking speed, charging into the crowd like a streak of red light. Bang bang bang, in the blink of an eye, the bodies of more than a dozen experts exploded, and then turned into ashes under the terrifying heat, leaving nothing behind. Screams continued to ring out. With a flash of red light, another dozen or so experts died tragically. These were all reciprocity experts, and there were even peak reciprocity experts among them. However, they could not even withstand a single blow, having been slain instantly. Retreat, 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 the surrounding living beings retreated frantically. The giant bird chased after them madly, and in the blink of an eye, dozens of people fell. It's a subimmortal desolate beast. What a terrifying aura. He's at least a second tribulation subimmortal. There's actually a subimmortal desolate beast hidden here. Damn it. Many people cried out in alarm and fled in a sorry state. This was beyond everyone's expectations. Previously, the surface of the heart of the universe had been searched, and all the powerful desolate beasts had been killed. However, he never expected that there would be a large number of desolate beasts living in the depths of the Sea of Flames. These desolate beasts were very likely born from the Sea of Fire. In this Sea of Flames he was like a fish in water. His strength was terrifying. Caw caw caw. The subimmortal level birds cried out continuously. Their eyes were filled with resentment as they pounced towards the numerous living beings. In fact, Lu Ming could understand this fire crow. Compared to this fire crow, they were invaders who wanted to deprive them of their place of survival. Naturally, it was filled with hatred and wanted to kill everyone. Set up the formation and block it, someone yelled. It was too hasty. It was impossible to take out another subimmortal artifact in such a short time. Even if many experts worked together, they would need time to prepare if they wanted to take out a powerful subimmortal artifact. It was unrealistic to be in such a hurry. Now, they could only rely on the combination formation to block it. Those powerful great cosmoses had no lack of combination formations. Immediately, one combination formation after another was set up. 6 combined array formations had appeared in the sacred light great cosmos. Each of these combined array formations had 18 people. Moreover, the people who set up the formations were all peak reciprocity experts. This was a combined formation of reciprocity experts, and there were actually 18 of them. The origin realm combination formations that Lu Ming had seen before were 3 to 5 people. Even so, their power was still very shocking. Who knew how powerful the combination formations of 18 people were? Moreover, the people who set up the formations were all peak reciprocity experts. There were a total of 6 of them. In addition, the Jade Clear Great Cosmos, the Skeletal Great Cosmos, and the Nether River Great Cosmos were not weak either. They set up one combination formation after another. Boom, boom, boom. When the subimmortal bird arrived, these combination formations were activated and clashed with the subimmortal bird. Violent energy swept out in all directions, stirring up a monstrous wave. Fortunately, this was the interior of the heart of the universe. It was sturdy and indestructible. Even if such a great battle erupted, it would not cause much damage. There were a total of over a dozen powerful formations. They worked together to resist the subimmortal bird, but they were still not its match. They were suppressed. The fire crow was extremely powerful and had the geographical advantage. When it attacked, the sea of flames surged. Endless flames accompanied the fire crow's attack and charged at the combination formations. Kakaka. At this moment, shrieks rang out from below the sea of flames. Along with the waves of flames, huge fire birds charged out one after another, charging at everyone. Although these fire birds were not subimmortals, they were all existences at reciprocity. As they flew, endless flames permeated the surroundings. The liquid flames below attacked them as well. Immediately, many people cried out miserably. They were defeated by the flames and died there. Lu Ming was also attacked by a fire bird. However, it was only at mid-reciprocity. With a sweep of his spear, Lu Ming blew the fire bird apart. However, the fire bird actually did not die. It actually reformed in the endless liquid flames. It was like rebirth. It really is similar to the fire phoenix. It has a similar technique. Lu Ming murmured. If it were any other mid-reciprocity expert, They would have died after being blown apart by Lu Ming's spear no matter how great their vitality was. However, this firebird was actually fine. As if it had discovered that Lu Ming was very strong, an even stronger firebird charged at Lu Ming. With a flap of its wings, it drove the liquid flames below towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming brandished his war god's spear, sending the liquid flames flying with a violent force. At the same time he stabbed out with his spear. A resplendent spear light pierced through the firebird, causing it to fall into the sea of flames. However, the firebird's wounds immediately healed. As if nothing had happened, it continued to charge at Lu Ming. Chapter 51-58. Lu Ming frowned. These flaming birds were really difficult to deal with. These flaming birds might really have been nurtured by the sea of flames. As long as they were near the sea of flames, their vitality would be very tenacious. They could borrow the flames of the sea of flames to continuously undergo nirvana. There are no undying creatures in the world. The reason they can undergo nirvana is because they didn't suffer enough damage. Lu Ming muttered as his body rapidly swelled to a height of 5 meters. Then he pressed down with his spear. After using the Genesis technique, Lu Ming's combat power increased greatly. With a thrust of the spear, the body of the peak origin flaming bird exploded. This wasn't the end. The battle god's spear continued to press down. The destructive power continuously suppressed and crushed the particles formed by the flaming bird's explosion. It wanted to completely obliterate these particles. In the end, the flaming bird didn't condense again. It was completely obliterated by Lu Ming. At this time, a sharp bird cry rang out, penetrating metal and splitting stone. That half-immortal level flame bird went crazy, unleashing its most powerful attack, directly blasting apart an 18-person joint attack formation. Of the 18 people who set it up, 9 of them instantly died miserably. The other combination formations were frightened and couldn't help but retreat. The flaming bird went crazy and wanted to continue attacking. Evil creature, you're courting death. With a loud shout, Lu Ming saw a young creature walk out of the sacred light great cosmos. With a wave of his hand, a talisman rushed out, emitting an eternal aura. True immortal dermic seal. This young creature from the sacred light great cosmos was clearly a monstrous genius with a great background. He had a talisman bestowed by a true immortal. The talisman glowed and a hazy figure appeared. It slapped a palm at the subimmortal flaming bird. The true immortal dermic seal that the young creature from the sacred light great cosmos took out was even more terrifying. It seemed to be even stronger than the true immortal dermic seal that Su Liangfu from the clear spring great cosmos had taken out. The palm slapped out and directly repelled the subimmortal flaming bird, causing the flames on its body to dim. The shriek of the subimmortal flaming bird set off monstrous waves. Vast liquid flames frantically converged towards the subimmortal flaming bird, causing its body to grow larger and larger. Attack together with the true immortal dermic seal and completely kill this evil creature. Someone shouted. Those powerful combination formations continued to attack the subimmortal flaming birds. At the same time, the other flaming birds also rushed towards the subimmortal flaming bird, intending to help it. This is a good chance. Let's go. Blah. A large number of figures charged into the sea of flames. Lu Ming's mind raced. In the end, he also plunged into the sea of flames. The temperature of the flame sea was shockingly high, but Lu Ming operated the taboo origin power and separated the flames of the flame sea without any difficulty. He rushed towards the bottom of the sea of flames. Soon they had plunged down several thousand meters. Now, while the creatures of the universe were busy dealing with the flaming birds, Han Sen had to go deep underground. Perhaps he could find something there. Once the powerful beings of the universe were free, things would get troublesome. No one doubted the strength of those powerful great cosmoses. Although the subimmortal flaming bird was strong, they firmly believed that it would eventually be killed by those great cosmoses. Those powerful great universes had many trump cards. More than 1 or 2 geniuses had come, and more than one of them had a true immortal spell mark. As long as these people attacked and used their true immortal spell marks, the subimmortal flaming bird would definitely die. Even if they didn't have enough true immortal spell marks, as long as they temporarily delayed the subimmortal flaming bird and gave the others time to prepare, they could still kill the subimmortal flaming bird with their subimmortal weapons. In other words, the subimmortal flaming bird would be killed sooner or later. It was only a matter of time. Lu Ming kept rushing down, but not long after, the flames surged. A flaming bird shuttled through the flames and charged towards Lu Ming. However, it wasn't strong. It was only at the mid-stage of the origin realm. Lu Ming destroyed it with a sweep of his spear. Next, Lu Ming encountered attacks from flaming birds from time to time. However, these flaming birds weren't very strong. The strongest was only at the peak of the origin realm. There were no other subimmortals, so they couldn't threaten Lu Ming. There should be a group of flaming birds living in this sea of liquid flames. There were many of them, but there shouldn't be many subimmortal flaming birds. There might even be only one. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been only one of them. After about half an hour, Lu Ming arrived at the bottom of the sea of flames. Lu Ming rushed to the bottom as if he had passed through a layer of film. In the next moment, Lu Ming arrived at an even wider space. This space was very strange. Looking up, it was a sea of flames, but it was suspended in midair. Not a single drop of liquid flame would fall. Looking down, it was also a sea of flames. However, the color was slightly different from the sea of flames above, giving off a more terrifying feeling. The space that Lu Ming was in was sandwiched between two seas of flames. One could imagine the environment. It was like being in a furnace filled with terrifying heat. Even the space seemed to be scorching hot. Being in the middle of it, one was constantly being stewed by the high temperature. Lu Ming was sure that if a divine master came here, they would instantly be reduced to ashes. In fact, even ordinary origins wouldn't feel good if they entered this place. Not far away, the sea of flames above trembled slightly, and many figures appeared. Like Lu Ming, they had passed through the sea of flames to reach this place. Among them, there were existences at the early stage of origin. After they arrived here, the protective power of origin vibrated and a layer of flames appeared around their bodies. It was actually burning their power of origin. Arg! One of them screamed, unable to bear it. His protective origin energy was burned through, and his body was set ablaze like a torch. He screamed and charged into the sea of flames above, fleeing without a trace. In fact, it wasn't just one person. Early origins existences indeed found it very difficult to bear the flames here. However, there were exceptions. For example, the origin energy they cultivated leaned towards heat and flames. They were like fish in water here. Lu Ming glanced around. Without stopping, he randomly chose a direction and flew off. This space was the core region of the heart of the universe. The soul was hidden in this space, but its exact location was unknown. Whether one could find it depended on one's luck. Lu Ming had heard people talking in the crowd. The structure of the first heart of the universe was very similar to this one. According to his previous experience, this space would also nurture some treasures. This was the opportunity that most people wanted to obtain. After flying for a while, Lu Ming saw a protruding rock in the sea of flames below. The rock was fiery red like red jade. A divine herb. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He saw a divine herb growing on the protruding rock like a fire lotus. Chapter 51-59. A fire lotus grew on the protruding rock. A heavenly herb that could be produced in such an environment was definitely extraordinary. Lu Ming flew over and discovered that it was a source-level heavenly herb. Of course, it was only a regular source-level heavenly herb and not a peak one. Peak source-level heavenly herbs did not appear so easily. Lu Ming plucked it and continued forward. Behind him, Lu Ming would discover protruding rocks from time to time. Of course, not every protruding rock had a heavenly herb growing on it. In reality, he would only come across them once in a while. There were also people who competed with Lu Ming during this period of time, but they were all casually dealt with by Lu Ming. He basically left no traces when killing people in this place. He could toss them into the sea of fire after killing them and not even a speck of dust would be left behind. Oh, what a large rock. It's like a mountain. Lu Ming suddenly saw a protruding rock in the sea of fire up ahead. However, the rock was just too large like a mountain. Boom. Suddenly, a rumble rang out from the top of the mountain. There was a flash of light as several figures constantly clashed. Someone was fighting. Lu Ming's figure flashed and he approached the rocky peak silently. I was the one who discovered this pool of body-cleansing fluid first, one of them bellowed furiously. He was an old man who was at late reciprocity. So what if you discovered it? Only the strong can obtain it. If you don't have the ability, it means you have no fate with this pool of body-cleansing fluid. The other person sneered. He was a burly man who seemed to be in his 30s. He was also at late reciprocity. There was a young woman beside the burly man. Clearly she was with the burly man. The two of them worked together and forced the old man into a disadvantageous position, forcing him to constantly retreat. The old man was furious, but there was nothing he could do. This was how cultivators were. Strength reigned supreme. Without strength, even if they came across treasures, they could only return empty-handed. Their conversation had been hushed in the beginning, so they did not spread out. They were afraid that someone would hear them. However, the old man's face became vicious at this moment. He suddenly roared out, "There's a pool of body-cleansing fluid here." His voice was like thunder, spreading far and wide. Late reciprocity existences could easily travel hundreds of millions of kilometers when they circulated their origin energy and roared out. Lu Ming heard it immediately. Body-cleansing fluid? The fluid that's said to be able to cleanse the body and evolve? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He had not stayed in the azure divine realm for so many years for nothing. He had read many books and records of many strange and precious treasures. The Great Desolate Alliance did not have any records of these rare treasures, but the azure divine realm did not lack them. The body-cleansing liquid was an extremely precious and rare spiritual essence of heaven and earth. If a cultivator absorbed and refined it, their physical body would transform. If there was enough of it, it could even allow reciprocity cultivators to form a tribulation body earlier. The immortal tribulation had 9 stages. To the tutu. I'm taking the body-cleansing fluid. Lu Ming suddenly sped up and charged toward the rocky mountain. Lu Ming's body had reached the peak of the first layer, but it was stuck. He had encountered a bottleneck, and even in the immortal graveyard he could not break through. But as long as he had enough body-cleansing fluid, his body could evolve again and reach the second layer. That way, his battle prowess would be even stronger, and it would be easier for him to undergo the immortal tribulation. He had learned a lot about the immortal tribulation from the old man. The stronger the origin energy, the higher the level, the more terrifying the immortal tribulation would be. Although the benefits would be greater after overcoming it, everything would be over if he failed. Only when he was strong enough could he overcome the immortal tribulation. His body was very important. Damn it! The man and woman were furious when they heard the old man's roar. There were many experts here, and the roar would definitely attract other experts. Once a peak reciprocity expert came, they would not have a share. Kill him quickly, then take the body-cleansing fluid and leave this place. The woman yelled. She and the burly man attacked wildly, wanting to kill the old man as soon as possible and take the body-cleansing fluid. The old man's face was ferocious and crazy. He resisted with all his might and tried to stall for time. If he could not get it, the other party could not either. Bang! The old man was hit and half of his body exploded. He almost died. The burly man and the woman wanted to kill the old man in one go, but their faces suddenly changed. They stopped and looked to the right. A young man had appeared on the right side at some point. The young man was tall and slender. His long hair fluttered in the wind, and his eyes shone like stars. He was Lu Ming. Seeing that someone had arrived, the old man quickly retreated and pulled away. He's only at late reciprocity. The burly man and the woman glanced at Lu Ming and discovered that Lu Ming was only at late reciprocity. They immediately let out a sigh of relief. The two of them were not afraid of Lu Ming. Kid, get lost. The body-cleansing fluid is not something you can touch. The burly man yelled coldly and then sent a message to the woman. He stopped Lu Ming and told the woman to quickly collect the body-cleansing fluid. The body-cleansing fluid is mine. Lu Ming spoke and took a step forward, about to rush to the peak of the mountain. You're courting death. The burly man roared and threw a punch at Lu Ming. This punch was an extremely powerful Genesis technique. He wanted to kill Lu Ming with one punch. A late reciprocity expert's Genesis technique was very powerful, but unfortunately, it was nothing in front of Lu Ming. Lu Ming stretched out a large hand and grabbed at the air. A huge palm was formed, and the 5 fingers were like 5 spears, grabbing at the burly man and the woman. The terrifying power made the burly man and the woman's expressions change drastically. As soon as Lu Ming attacked, they felt a fatal danger and knew that they had encountered a terrifying enemy. The burly man roared and the woman let out a long howl before attacking as well, unleashing their strongest attacks. But in front of Lu Ming it was not enough. With a grab of the hand, the two's attacks collapsed and a destructive power enveloped them. Spare us! The burly man and the woman cried out in fear and begged for mercy. But Lu Ming was unmoved. The burly man had clearly wanted to kill Lu Ming earlier, but now he was begging for mercy when he saw that he was no match for him. Was it so easy to be a cultivator? Bang! The hand mercilessly grabbed, and the burly man and the woman screamed as their bodies exploded. Their souls were wiped out. Nearby, the old man broke out in a cold sweat. He knew very well how powerful the man and woman were. They were much stronger than him, but they could not even withstand a single blow from Lu Ming. They were killed in a single move. Lu Ming was also at late reciprocity, the same as him, but the difference was just too great. Chapter 5160. Sir, the body-cleansing liquid is yours. I'll take my leave. The old man cupped his fists and hurriedly turned to leave. Looks like it won't be that easy to get the body-cleansing liquid. Lu Ming narrowed his eyes and scanned the surroundings. People were rushing over from all directions at an astonishing speed. There was no lack of top experts among them. The old man's roar just now had traveled too far. As long as they weren't too far away, they all heard it and rushed over frantically. Everyone was tempted by the body-cleansing liquid. Even the powerful great cosmos didn't produce much of such a top-grade spiritual item. Could be said that it was very rare. It could only be nurtured in the endless chaos. However, the endless chaos was extremely dangerous and contained many unknowns. It was difficult for ordinary people to cross it, let alone enter to search for treasures. Treasures like the body-cleansing liquid were related to the immortal tribulation in their lives. It was more important than anything else. Lu Ming took a step forward and arrived at the top of the mountain. There was a small pond at the top of the mountain. The pond was filled with a fiery red liquid. This liquid wasn't liquid fire. It just looked like it. This was the body-cleansing liquid. It emitted a rich fragrance. Lu Ming felt that all the pores on his body were about to open automatically to absorb this fragrance. Lu Ming took out a jade bottle and circulated his power of origin, activating the jade bottle. Instantly, a suction force was generated toward the body-washing liquid. The body-washing liquid turned into wisps of ribbon-like liquid and was absorbed into the jade bottle. Lu Ming was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, the entire pond of body-cleansing liquid was sucked into the jade bottle by Lu Ming. At this moment, the first wave of people finally arrived. There were about a dozen people dressed in the same way. All of them were wearing striped long robes. Their eyes were terrifying as they stared at Lu Ming. "Kid, the body-cleansing liquid is not something you can touch. You're courting death." One of the burly men stretched out his hand and grabbed Lu Ming with his big hand. He was at the peak of reciprocity. The other party was very decisive. He knew that there were people coming from all directions, so he didn't waste any time and attacked as soon as he arrived. He wanted to kill Lu Ming, seize the body-cleansing liquid, and then retreat. The war god's spear appeared and swept out, directly blowing up the other party's hand. His opponent's eyes narrowed. He had never thought that Lu Ming, a late reciprocity cultivator, would actually possess the battle prowess to block his attack. "Let's attack together." The burly man bellowed, and the others who came with him also attacked together. Among the dozen or so people, there were 4 peak reciprocity experts while the rest were late reciprocity experts. Early reciprocity or even mid-reciprocity cultivators would stay here for a very long time. "Kill?" Lu Ming shouted, his eyes cold. Since the other party was being overbearing, they couldn't blame him for being ruthless. If he did not display his thunderous methods, how could he intimidate others? There would definitely be people who would continuously attack him. Activating a Genesis technique, Lu Ming grew to a height of 5 meters. Divine light swirled around his spear as it swept out. Bang bang bang. Their attacks were constantly dispersed. The war god's spear crushed through them, forcing them to retreat. Those who were only at late reciprocity paled and almost vomited blood. How is this possible? These people were extremely shocked. Lu Ming's cultivation was only at late reciprocity, yet he was able to suppress them all by himself. Although they were not creatures of this universe and had come to the primitive universe, they were somewhat suppressed, making it difficult for them to display their full battle prowess. But Lu Ming was not suppressed? No. They could sense that Lu Ming's aura was the same as the primitive universe. Lu Ming was a creature of the primitive universe. Swish swish swish. At this moment, more and more figures appeared in the surroundings, surrounding the mountain peak. Naturally, Lu Ming was also surrounded. "Kid, hand over the body-washing liquid and we'll spare your life." A treasure like the body-washing liquid is not something you can get your hands on. Cold yells rang out one after another as icy auras locked onto Lu Ming. There were people from the Yang world and also people from the Yin world. But at this moment, these people were all staring at Lu Ming with fiery eyes. "There are so many of you, but there's only one body-washing liquid. Even if I hand it over, how will you split it?" Lu Ming smiled faintly. He was not afraid at all. As the saying goes, the strong are bold. Now, as long as the sub-immortals did not appear, he was not afraid of anyone in the origin realm. Even if the experts of the great universe had all kinds of trump cards, did he not have any trump cards? Human King Broken Sword had not drunk blood for a long time. Lu Ming's words made the eyes of the surrounding people flicker. They sized up the others with murderous intent in their eyes. Lu Ming's method of sowing discord was too low level. How could they not know? Everyone present knew that Lu Ming was sowing discord, but even if they knew, what could they do? They desperately wanted the body-washing liquid and wanted to take it for themselves. Since everyone thought so, then what Lu Ming said was very realistic. Who should he give it to? Everyone, please give face to the Yuan Rong Great Universe. I will remember this kindness. A burly man on one side spoke. The Yuan Rong Great Universe was considered powerful among the tens of thousands of universes in the Yang realm. Their overall strength was ranked in the upper echelons. Ordinary great universes in the Yang realm had to give them some face. But now, in the face of the body-washing liquid, no one was willing to give it up. Not to mention the creatures of the underworld. What's the big deal about the Yuan Rong Great Universe? Get lost. Someone from the underworld shouted coldly, not giving face at all. Both sides surrounded Lu Ming. For a moment, no one made a move, forming a stalemate. No one dared to make the first move. Even if they killed Lu Ming and obtained the body-washing liquid, they would still be attacked by others. Lu Ming shook his head in disappointment. He originally wanted to let the parties kill each other so that he could save some energy, but he didn't expect these people to not make a move. Then he could only make a move. Since you guys aren't making a move, then get lost. Lu Ming shouted and stepped in one direction. His speed was extremely shocking. With a step, he approached the living beings in that direction. Boom. The war god's spear pressed down. Do it, kill him. Kill this kid first, then fight for the body-washing liquid with our own ability. A few shouts sounded and the people in that direction attacked. In an instant, at least 3 peak origin experts attacked together. 3 terrifying attacks attacked Lu Ming's vital points at the same time, wanting to kill Lu Ming. However, the war god's spear carried a vast destructive energy. When it pressed down, the 3 attacks instantly collapsed. The war god's spear didn't stop, and destructive energy rushed out. The 3 peak origin experts groaned, and their bodies shook violently. They retreated and spat out blood. What? The people in the other directions were also shocked. 3 peak origin experts attacked together, but they were actually repelled by Lu Ming in one move, and they were injured. This kind of combat strength was a little shocking. This person is a monster. Let's attack together and kill him first. Yes, let's attack together. The experts in the other directions also roared. Chapter 5161. There were at least a dozen peak origin source experts in the surroundings who wanted to attack together to deal with Lu Ming. I can't be bothered to play with you. A pair of wings appeared on Lu Ming's back. With a flap, he charged out of the encirclement and into the distance. If he really wanted to fight, it wouldn't be difficult for Lu Ming to kill the dozen peak origin source experts and the other experts. In fact, killing these peak origin source experts was even easier than killing the Master of the Heavenly Palace. After all, the Master of the Heavenly Palace was born in the primeval universe and had gradually adapted to the laws and order of the primeval universe. Although he was still suppressed, the suppression wasn't too great. Similar to the heavenly human race, the 8 forbidden races were also in the same situation. These creatures from the outer verse had just entered the primeval universe and were suppressed by the primeval universe. Their strength had been greatly reduced, making it easier to kill them. However, killing these people was meaningless. Lu Ming's goal was to obtain the body-washing elixir and find a place where no one was around to refine it. Boom. Lu Ming hadn't flown far when a figure suddenly appeared in front of him and slammed a palm towards Lu Ming. The palm force was so terrifying that the void was completely destroyed. Lu Ming could only see a hazy palm enveloped in primal chaos as it blasted towards him. Without thinking, Lu Ming also slammed his palm out. Lu Ming was currently in the state of a Genesis technique, so a casual attack was still very powerful. With a terrifying roar, circles of destructive energy burst out from the 2 palms and swept out in all directions. Then the 2 figures retreated. It's that guy. Lu Ming's gaze shifted. In front of him stood a white-haired, sage-like old man in Taoist robes. Wasn't that the old man from the Jade Clear Great Cosmos? Swish, swish, swish. Behind the sage-like old man, more than 20 figures rushed over. They were all experts from the Jade Clear Great Cosmos. It's the Jade Clear Great Cosmos. There's also Fenjiuzi. I heard that Fenjiuzi's battle strength is already close to an existence on the origin list. The faces of the people from the other universes changed. With the Jade Clear Great Cosmos and Fenjiuzi around, the body-cleansing elixir most likely had nothing to do with them. Fenjiuzi's combat power was extremely shocking. He was famous even among the origins of the entire universe ocean. It was rumored that his battle prowess was close to the origin list. This was incredibly shocking. The reciprocity rankings included the strongest experts of the reciprocity realm in the entire world of the living. There were only 1,000 names listed on the list. In the vast world of the living, there were over 30,000 great universes and countless living beings. Among them there were countless origin realm existences. It was impossible to count. The weaker universes were fine, but the stronger universes were filled with experts. There were far too many origin realm experts. For example, at the peak of the primitive universe in the previous epoch, immortals roamed freely. There were countless origin realm experts. In the vast world of the living, there were over 30,000 universes and countless reciprocity experts. Only 1,000 people could enter the rankings, which was more than enough to demonstrate the strength of these 1,000 people. On average, only one out of dozens of great cosmoses would appear. For Fenjiuzi to be close to the origin list, his battle prowess was imaginable. You have some strength. It's rare to have such battle prowess at the late stage of reciprocity. However, you're still not my opponent. Give me the body cleansing elixir. Fenjiuzi said. His eyes burned with passion. He was determined to get the body cleansing elixir. He had been at the peak of reciprocity for countless years, but he had never dared to undergo the immortal tribulation because he was not confident. Once he began to undergo the immortal tribulation, there would be no retreat. If he failed, he would die. The body cleansing elixir could transform the body. The stronger the body, the greater the chance of undergoing the immortal tribulation. Make your move. If you defeat me, I'll give you the body cleansing elixir. Lu Ming said. He held his spear with one hand and his battle intent surged. Lu Ming wanted to fight someone close to the origin list. He wanted to see if his battle prowess could compare to an existence on the origin list. Earlier, he had been ambushed by Fenjiuzi. In his haste, he had not used much strength. You still want to fight with me? Then I'll fulfill your wish. Fenjiuzi's eyes turned cold. With a swish, his body turned into a ray of green light and charged at Lu Ming. He threw a palm at Lu Ming. A green palm print that was as big as a mountain was extremely terrifying. It was even more powerful than when he ambushed Lu Ming. Could be seen that Fenjiuzi was injured. He was wearing a glove that was as thin as a cicada's wing. He should have a top source level divine weapon that could increase the power of the palm print. Bus. Lu Ming waved his war god's spear and swept it out, colliding with the palm print. Bang. The force swept out, but this time Lu Ming was prepared. The power of his attack soared, and the green palm print directly collapsed. Fenjiuzi's body shook violently as he retreated. Lu Ming, on the other hand, did not move at all. Battle prowess close to the origin list is just SOSO. Lu Ming said indifferently. Fenjiuzi's face turned ugly, but he was very shocked. He was only at the late stage of origin, but he could actually force him back. Such battle prowess was top-notch even in the vast Yang realm. However, it was impossible for him to give up just like that. Kill. Fenjiuzi roared, and an even stronger aura surged out of his body. On the surface of his body, a scarlet light seeped out. It's the tribulation light. This guy has also reached the level of one tribulation body. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Boom. Fenjiuzi charged toward Lu Ming again. He waved his palms continuously and the void exploded. Many terrifying palm prints shrouded Lu Ming. At the same time, a pagoda rushed out of Fenjiuzi's forehead. The pagoda was green, and streaks of green light fell from the top of the pagoda like a waterfall, suppressing Lu Ming. This is more interesting. Lu Ming roared and waved his spear to meet the attack. Boom, boom, boom. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming and Fenjiuzi had exchanged dozens of blows. Then, with a loud bang, the green pagoda was blown away and cracks appeared on it. Fenjiuzi retreated violently, coughing up blood. His face was pale and a bloody hole appeared in his chest. It was obviously pierced by the war god's spear. The people around gasped in disbelief. Lu Ming could actually defeat Fenjiuzi. Such battle prowess was simply terrifying. Is this the battle prowess close to the origin list? Lu Ming whispered, and he had a rough idea. To be honest, Fenjiuzi was very strong. He was many times stronger than the master of the Heavenly Palace. Ordinary peak origin experts were not enough in front of Fenjiuzi. In the battle just now, Lu Ming had already felt that Fenjiuzi's origin power should be at the intermediate level, but it had reached the peak of the intermediate level. Moreover, Fenjiuzi's physical body was also exceptionally powerful. Just like Lu Ming, he had a one tribulation body. Moreover, his genesis techniques were also very profound. They had been comprehended to a very deep level, and their power was very astonishing. With his peak origin cultivation on the surface, he was not much weaker than Lu Ming. But Lu Ming's genesis techniques were ultimately stronger. Moreover, Lu Ming was not suppressed, so it was relatively easy for him to win. Chapter 5162. Of course, it wouldn't be so easy to defeat Fenjiuzi in the Outerverse. The vast cosmic sea is indeed filled with experts. He's only close to the origin list, yet he already has such battle prowess. I wonder how strong the experts on the origin list are. Lu Ming whispered, looking forward to it. He wouldn't belittle himself, and he still had the belief that he was invincible. This was because he was still far from reaching the peak of the origin realm. Whether it was his cultivation, Genesis arts, or Genesis roots, he still had a lot of room for improvement. Set up a joint attack formation and kill him. Fenjiuzi suddenly shouted with a ferocious look in his eyes. So what if he couldn't defeat Lu Ming? He had to get the body-washing liquid. Suddenly, figures flickered behind Fenjiuzi as they began to set up a joint attack formation. I won't keep you company. Lu Ming's wings flapped as he quickly retreated. The Jade Clear Great Cosmos was one of the top 10 Great Cosmoses in the Yang realm. Lu Ming didn't want to offend them. At the same time, their joint attack formation was also very powerful. Even Lu Ming didn't want to face a joint attack formation set up by 18 peak origin experts. Lu Ming was extremely fast and these people couldn't stop him at all. With a few flashes he disappeared without a trace. Damn it! Fenjiuzi roared in anger. A pool of body-washing liquid had disappeared in front of him just like that. He was so angry that his liver hurt. However, Lu Ming was too fast and he couldn't catch up at all. Lu Ming flew rapidly, and in the blink of an eye he flew hundreds of thousands of miles away. He then chose a place with no one and plunged into the sea of flames. He wanted to refine the body-washing liquid in the sea of flames. The battle with Fenjiuzi had given him a rough understanding of his own battle prowess. Although he was very confident and wouldn't belittle himself, he still felt a huge pressure. After all, Fenjiuzi hadn't entered the origin list yet. How strong would the true experts on the origin list be? Also, how terrifying would those in the top 100 or even the top 10 be? Lu Ming had to constantly improve. Lu Ming's goal was to be the strongest in every realm. He opened the jade bottle and revealed the body-cleansing liquid inside. A fragrant smell wafted out, but it was blocked by the liquid fire outside. "Qiuqiu, protect me," Lu Ming said. "Don't worry, leave it to me." Qiuqiu flew out and stood guard around Lu Ming. Lu Ming took a deep breath. The body-washing liquid in the jade bottle turned into a stream of water and was sucked into Lu Ming's mouth. With a gulp, the blood flowed down his throat and into his stomach. Lu Ming immediately felt a warm current spread throughout his body, seeping into every cell in his body. His cells greedily absorbed this energy. Asterisk crack crack. Asterisk Lu Ming's body began to wriggle. Strange sounds could be heard, and wisps of black smoke seeped out of Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming's fleshly body was transforming. And Lu Ming kept swallowing the body-cleansing liquid. Half a day later, Lu Ming had completely refined the body-cleansing liquid. Lu Ming's fleshly body had also completed its transformation. His body was slender, and his muscles were well proportioned, as if he was filled with great power. With a little force, the light of tribulation would spread out from the surface of his body. However, the light of tribulation was no longer red, but orange. Second tribulation body. Lu Ming's fleshly body had made another breakthrough, reaching the second tribulation body. At the late origin realm, his fleshly body was comparable to that of a person who had undergone 2 immortal tribulations. This was absolutely shocking. The breakthrough of his fleshly body allowed Lu Ming's strength to increase again. "Let's go." Lu Ming rushed out of the sea of flames and headed in a direction with Qiuqiu. In the blink of an eye, several days had passed. In the past few days, Lu Ming did not encounter any more spiritual items like the body-cleansing liquid, but he did obtain a lot of divine herbs. Even the top source-level divine herbs were obtained by Lu Ming. Unfortunately, what Lu Ming wanted the most was treasures that could strengthen his fleshly body, soul, and origin roots. However, such treasures were too precious. Even in the heart of the universe there were not many of them. And there were too many creatures that entered the heart of the universe, so it was too difficult to gain anything. Caw. A few flaming birds pounced out of the sea of flames above and attacked Lu Ming. Whoosh! Qiuqiu flew out and dealt with the flaming birds in a few moves. There are more and more flaming birds in this direction. Strange, there must be a problem, Lu Ming pondered. When Lu Ming came to the vicinity, he discovered that the number of flaming birds here was astonishing. From time to time, flaming birds would pounce out. It was as if he had come to a flaming bird nest. With so many flaming birds guarding here, there must be something unusual ahead. Let's go take a look, Lu Ming muttered. He was now bold because of his skills. Unless he encountered a sub-immortal, he was fearless. If he couldn't defeat them, he could still retreat. Lu Ming continued to move forward, but the resistance he encountered was getting stronger and stronger. Flaming birds kept pouncing out of the sea of flames to attack Lu Ming. However, the strongest were only at the peak of origin. It wasn't difficult for Lu Ming and Qiuqiu to break through. Not long after, Lu Ming had crossed tens of thousands of miles. That is, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He saw a ball of flames in the sky ahead. It was hovering in the air and burning fiercely like a sun. The flame was very big, with a diameter of tens of thousands of meters. Even from far away, Lu Ming could feel the scorching temperature. This is the soul of the heart of the universe. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He had heard a lot of things when he was in the crowd. The soul of the first piece of the heart of the universe looked like this. It was like a huge ball of flames that emitted an astonishingly high temperature. I didn't expect to be the first to encounter a soul. Could it be that this fragment of the heart of the universe is fated with me? Lu Ming muttered. Lu Ming, this is the soul. It said that if you fuse with this soul, you can control the fragment of the heart of the universe. Do you want to take it? Qiuqiu asked. Lu Ming looked hesitant. He was struggling in his heart. It would be a lie if he didn't want to be tempted by the treasure in front of him. However, Lu Ming quickly made a decision and shook his head. Forget it. Even if I take it, I can't keep it. Even if he fused with the soul, many experts would have to set up a powerful array to shrink the fragment of the heart of the universe and refine it into a spatial treasure. Not to mention that he didn't know how to do it. Even if he did, he couldn't keep it. There were hundreds of experts from the great cosmos outside, and there would definitely be more coming. He would definitely be hunted down by these experts. When a bunch of experts on the origin list came, it would be very difficult for Lu Ming to defeat them. Not to mention, there were less than 100 years before the origin tribulation would be over. At that time, when a sub-immortal descended, Lu Ming wouldn't be able to keep the fragment of the heart of the universe no matter what. If he took it, it would instead cause a fatal disaster. There was no choice. After all, he didn't have a backer or the support of a powerful universe. Are we going to miss it just like that? Qiuqiu was also a little unwilling. Chapter 5163. Qiuqiu was very unwilling. They were the first to find the soul. Could it be that they could only watch helplessly? It's not to the extent of missing it completely. It said that the soul contains rich soul matter. We can absorb this soul matter without fusing with the soul. Lu Ming said. The soul matter in the soul was a rare spiritual essence of the world. It could temper the soul and transform it. Its value was immeasurable. When one's cultivation approached the peak of reciprocity, the next step was the immortal tribulation. After passing the immortal tribulation, one would be able to transcend the universe and become an immortal. Immortals were a completely different level of life. But the immortal tribulation was a bottomless abyss in front of all cultivators. Since ancient times, who knew how many outstanding geniuses had died? To pass the immortal tribulation, the physical body, soul, and origin roots were the most important. None of the three could be left behind. If one was left behind, the immortal tribulation would not be passed. Therefore, after reaching the peak of reciprocity, even sub-immortal existences would do their best to find ways to improve their physical body, soul, and origin roots. In the vast cosmic sea, there were indeed rare spiritual essences of the world that could transform the three. Relatively speaking, spiritual essences of the world that could improve the physical body were easier to find. Treasures that could improve the soul were rarer and harder to come by. And the rarest and scarcest of all were treasures that could improve the origin roots. The soul matter in the heart of the universe was a treasure that could improve the soul. How could Lu Ming miss out on it? Even if he could not take away the heart of the universe, he had to absorb the soul matter in it. Let's go. Lu Ming and Qiuqiu charged towards the soul. But the soul seemed to have intelligence and vibrated slightly. A terrifyingly powerful pressure was emitted from it and rushed towards Lu Ming. Break! Lu Ming roared and used a Genesis technique. His palm was like a blade as it slashed down and split the pressure apart. Qiuqiu also transformed into the human king's broken sword. Its sword light was like a waterfall, breaking through everything and slashing apart the pressure. One person and one ball continued to advance. Powerful pressure constantly rushed out of the soul. If it was an ordinary reciprocity or even an ordinary peak reciprocity, it would be very difficult to resist this pressure. But in the end, he was unable to stop Lu Ming and Qiuqiu. More than 10 minutes later, Lu Ming and Qiuqiu approached the heart and soul. They took a step forward and charged into the heart of the heart and soul. Their hearts and souls were like the sun. After they entered, they couldn't see anything from the outside. Speaking of which, it was rather strange. When he was outside, it was incredibly hot. The temperature that his soul gave off was shockingly high, requiring him to circulate his origin energy at all times to resist. However, when it entered his heart and soul, it was cool and refreshing. He couldn't feel any heat at all. Furthermore, there were traces of a black substance floating in the depths of his soul. These black substances were like black ribbons. They emitted a fluorescent light and even had a refreshing fragrance that made one's soul feel refreshed and refreshed. This was soul matter. Qiuqiu, you should absorb some too. Lu Ming Qiuqiu. Although Qiuqiu's physique was special and could evolve by devouring metallic materials and divine weapons, absorbing more soul matter was always beneficial. All right. Qiuqiu opened its mouth and sucked, swallowing a wisp of soul matter. Lu Ming also opened his mouth and sucked in a wisp of soul matter. Then he sat down cross-legged and began to refine it. At this time, Lu Ming's soul had completely gathered inside his origin root. When the soul matter entered Lu Ming's body, it rushed to the origin root and entered his soul. It intertwined with his soul and continuously tempered it. Lu Ming felt his soul strengthening bit by bit. Although he could borrow the wills of the experts in the immortal graveyard to temper his soul, the speed was far from this fast. 2 hours later, a wisp of soul matter was completely refined. Lu Ming felt that his soul had strengthened by about 20%. It had only been 2 hours, but he had already gained so much. The speed was astonishing. Lu Ming opened his mouth and sucked in a wisp of soul matter. Time flew by and 2 days passed very quickly. During these 2 days, Lu Ming had been refining the soul matter. Finally, his soul had also completed its transformation. It had transformed from a 1 tribulation soul to a 2 tribulation soul. Both his soul power and soul strength had increased greatly. However, there was still a lot of soul matter in his heart. Lu Ming had no intention of leaving. He planned to absorb all the soul matter before leaving. At this time, other living beings finally arrived outside his heart. Swish. 3 figures appeared not far away. The leader was a youth. If others were here, they would definitely recognize him. He was Su Liangfu of the Clear Spring Great Cosmos, a monstrous genius ranked 897 on the origin list. Behind Su Liangfu stood 2 old men. At a glance, one could tell that they were extremely powerful experts. Heart Soul Ha. There are a lot of blazing birds guarding this area. It is indeed extraordinary. So the Heart Soul is here. Su Liangfu was overjoyed. Congratulations, young master. This fragment of the heart of the universe is fated with you. An old man said with a smile on his face. Su Liangfu, you are too naive. Do you think you can get your hands on the fragment of the heart of the universe? A sneer came from another direction. Then there was a flash of light and 5 figures appeared. One of them was also a youth. Behind him were 4 burly men and an elder. Jia Qing, it's you. Su Liangfu's face changed. Jia Qing was also a monstrous genius. Like him, he was also on the origin list of the Yang realm. Moreover, he was ranked a few dozen places higher than him, at 865. Su Liangfu, if you want to get the heart soul, let's see who's stronger. Jia Qing was very strong. He was ranked a few dozen places higher than Su Liangfu. He was confident that he could suppress Su Liangfu. Humph, don't think that you are stronger than me just because you are ranked a few places higher than me. The origin list hasn't been updated for 1,000 years. Su Liangfu said coldly. The meaning behind his words was simple. If the origin list was updated now, he could suppress Jia Qing. If it is updated, my ranking won't be just a few dozen places higher than yours. It won't be that simple. Jia Qing sneered in response. As they spoke, both of their auras rose to the peak. Their auras collided in the void, creating rumbling explosions. Both sides knew that if they didn't completely defeat their opponent, they wouldn't be able to get the heart soul. However, before the 2 sides fought, their eyes suddenly flashed, and they looked in the same direction at the same time. 5 figures rushed over, bringing with them a cold aura. 5 experts from the underworld. They were 5 black panthers. To be precise, they were creatures that looked very similar to panthers. Their bodies were pitch black and they stood not far away. With a flash of light, the 5 black panthers transformed into their human forms. The one at the front was an extremely tall and sturdy young man. Behind him were also 4 old men. So the heart soul is here. You're my people. You can get lost now. The Black Panther youth grinned and glanced coldly at Su Liangfu and Jia Qing as if he was looking at 2 trash. What big words. Su Liangfu replied coldly. Chapter 5164. Join forces to kill him first? Jia Qing glanced at Su Liangfu. When encountering someone from the underworld, their problems could be put aside for now. It wouldn't be too late to fight for the soul after dealing with the underworld experts. Do it. Su Liangfu's reply was very direct. As soon as his voice fell, he attacked like a bolt of lightning, pouncing at the Black Panther youth. At the same time, Jia Qing also attacked from the other side. The 4 old men behind the Black Panther youth wanted to attack, but they were stopped by the Black Panther youth. "Don't attack. Let me deal with them." The Black Panther youth transmitted his voice to the 4 old men. At the same time, his body had already pounced forward. A cold aura burst out, causing the scorching temperature to drop significantly. Boom, boom, boom. The 3 figures collided and rapidly exchanged blows. In an instant they had exchanged more than a dozen moves. After a series of explosions, the 3 figures separated and retreated separately. Is this the so-called origin list experts of the Yang realm? So mediocre. The Black Panther youth sneered. The Yang realm's origin list was the strongest group of origin realm experts in the Yang realm. The underworld would naturally collect relevant information about them. The Black Panther youth easily recognized Jia Qing and Su Liangfu. Su Liangfu and Jia Qing's expressions were somewhat unsightly. They didn't expect that the 2 of them together couldn't take down the other party. The other party's combat strength was shockingly strong. If they were placed on the Yang realm's origin list, their ranking would be far higher than theirs. Again? Su Liangfu shouted. His body was covered in scarlet light as he pushed his combat strength to the peak and charged at the Black Panther youth again. On the other side, Jia Qing also pushed his combat strength to the peak and charged over. "Come." The Black Panther youth sneered. His cold aura seemed to want to seal the sea of flames. With a roar, he reverted to his original form and pounced. The 3 young monsters continued to exchange blows. The experts they brought were also facing each other, cautiously watching the battlefield to avoid any accidents. Just as the 3 experts were fighting, more and more people came over. Some were alone while others were in groups of 2 or 3. However, there were no young people. They were all old men, old women, or middle-aged men. The Black Panther youth, Su Liangfu, and Jia Qing couldn't help but stop fighting. They faced each other, but they also cautiously watched the others. Those who could reach this place were no weaklings. In fact, there were even some who were ranked on the origins list of the mortal realm. 2 elders Shen Chuan, these 2 old fellows also came. Su Liangfu and Jia Qing looked at the 2 red-robed old men with solemn expressions. Shen Chuan was also a powerhouse on the origin list of the Yang realm. The origin ranking was not just a ranking of young prodigies. It was a ranking based on the battle prowess of reciprocity experts. As long as one was strong enough, regardless of age, one could enter the origin board. In fact, there were not many young prodigies on the origin board. There were definitely no more than 300 of them. The others were all old powerhouses of the older generation, not belonging to the younger generation. The lifespan of reciprocity experts was basically endless. They lived as long as the universe. Many old people at the peak of reciprocity did not dare to attempt the Immortal's Tribulation. They did not dare to begin the Immortal's Tribulation, so they remained at peak reciprocity for a very long time. Some people had been stuck in this realm for far too long. Even if their talent was lacking in the beginning, after a long period of cultivation and accumulation, their battle prowess was extremely terrifying. For example, if one slowly comprehended Genesis arts and spent a long time, their comprehension of Genesis arts would reach an astonishing level. There were also some people who, after a long period of time, would always obtain some opportunities to improve their Genesis roots, body, and soul. In short, it was really difficult for some old people who had been stuck at peak reciprocity for countless years to fathom their true battle prowess. After all, they had lived for too long. Sometimes, time could slowly make up for some of the deficiencies in talent. 2 elders Shen Chuan were such people. Their ranking on the origin board of the Yang realm was not much worse than Su Liangfu and Jia Qing. In addition to the Yang realm, there were also many people from the Yin realm. There was no such thing as an origin board in the Yin realm, but there was no doubt that there was no lack of experts who were equivalent to the origin board. The situation suddenly became complicated. Everyone present glanced at the heart-soul from time to time, wanting to get it in their hands. This was especially true for those of the older generation. What they desired the most was the soul substance in the heart-soul. This was a priceless spiritual essence that could not be bought even if they wanted to. The reason why they had been stuck at peak reciprocity and did not dare to undergo the immortal tribulation was that they were not confident, or rather, they were afraid of death. Once they began to undergo the immortal tribulation, there was no turning back. They had to go all the way. Either they became an immortal or they died. For example, after one had undergone the first immortal tribulation, if one did not have the confidence to undergo the second immortal tribulation, it was impossible to stay at the level of the first immortal tribulation. If one did not undergo the immortal tribulation for too long, the immortal tribulation would automatically find one. Therefore, too many people were stuck at peak reciprocity. The two of us don't want the heart-soul. We only want the soul substance in the heart-soul, said one of two elders Xin Chuan. Impossible. You won't get anything. The Black Panther youth said. How could the young geniuses give up the soul substance? The young geniuses were all ambitious. To put it bluntly, they looked down on these old guys who were stuck at peak reciprocity and did not dare to undergo the immortal tribulation. How could they become immortals if they were so cowardly? They pressed forward with indomitable will, but they also needed the assistance of various spiritual essences. In that case, we'll rely on our own abilities. One of two elders Shen Chuan said with a cold face. Whoosh. Suddenly, an old man from the netherworld suddenly moved. He turned into a black light and rushed toward the heart-soul. How dare you? Su Liangfu shouted coldly and immediately stopped him. The stalemate was broken. A slight move would affect the whole situation. As soon as they moved, it immediately caused the others to move as well. Whoosh. Two elders Xin Chuan joined forces and rushed toward the heart-soul, but they were stopped by the Black Panther youth. Jia Qing and the other experts were also engaged in a fierce battle. A chaotic battle broke out around the heart-soul. There's a fight outside. Inside the heart-soul, Lu Ming and Qiuqiu looked at each other. Then, the two of them opened their mouths and swallowed the soul substance with all their might, quickly refining it. They wanted to refine all the soul substance here before the others entered the heart-soul. They could not leave a trace of such good things to others. The man and the ball desperately refined the soul substance. The people outside were also desperately trying. Well, someone was pierced through. His body was torn apart and he died on the spot. It was one of the 4 experts brought by Jia Qing. He was killed by a sinister old man from the netherworld. This sinister old man also had the battle strength of an origin list expert. The 4 subordinates brought by Jia Qing were all peak reciprocity existences. Even among peak reciprocity existences, they were considered experts. However, there was still a huge gap between them and the existences on the origin list. The battle became more and more tragic. From time to time, people would die.